made their way to Matiangi's home, including his lawyers, led by Dunstan Omari. Raila, while condemning the incident, demanded that if there is a matter that Matiangi needs to respond to, he should be summoned at a police station and asked to record a statement instead of being arrested.
And I was shocked to hear that this is happening at this hour of the day. They say that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Because if Mr. Matiangi committed a crime, he is a Kenyan and he lives in Kenya. There is time to go and actually serve him with a notice to appear before a police station. There's no reason why police should be coming to somebody's private residence at this time of the day when people are asleep. This means that police themselves are actually guilty of committing a crime.
Dunstan Omari said his client is ready to present himself before the police to record a statement.
My client is holed up as if he's a fugitive in his own country. This is a former minister in charge of security. This is a former minister in charge of the police. This is a minister who has served the citizens of this country. Civility must be retained. We can't have a rogue government that comes at the midnight to arrest the former CS. If they want the former CS, and that's what we are telling everybody, we will provide him.
He confirmed that they were aware of the plans to arrest Matiangi, but did not know the reason, saying the officers cannot be allowed to enter his house until they present a court order.
We will remain steadfast to defend our client. More than 200 advocates are surrounding Matiangi, and we are ready, all of us, to be arrested so long as Matiangi's life is safe. But I will assure every Kenyan and everybody in the whole world that we need this country to be put to check. We can't bring our country down. The pillars of democracy, the pillars of civility must be respected.
National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u is conceding that the country's economy is in a strained status, citing lack of resources to finance key public expenditure. Simply put, the country is in a financial hole, and Ndung'u, while equating the national budget to a household budget, says the available resources were less than the listed expenses, asking Kenyans to be patient. His concession on the state of the country's economy dampens hopes of reduced cost of living for millions of Kenyans currently in distress. He was speaking during an induction forum for the Senate Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. And in yet another daring attack, bandits in Baringo County attacked a village in Mushongoi and drove away livestock. The daring attack occurred only 60 kilometers from where Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki was holding a regional security meeting with the Rift Valley Security Command to draw up a plan on how to engage the bandits, with the militia coming out to prove they were undeterred. The bandits engaged police in a fierce battle, raiding Lemeyue village in broad daylight, and drove away 60 goats after overpowering the police reservist. The attack came 5 days after another attack in Turkana, where they killed one person in Lomelo. During the closed-door meeting attended by security chiefs, including security heads in Baringo, West Pokot and Elgeyo-Marakwet counties, the security team planned a major operation to be mounted in the region to flush out the bandits. The CS is today expected to spearhead a charged operation to recover the goods and flush out bandits from the area. And Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni has played down the significance of a meeting held by President William Ruto and a section of Jubilee MPs. The President hosted the lawmakers at State House, Nairobi, a day after he convened a meeting with ODM leaders. Kioni further revealed that rebel MPs would be disciplined for meeting President William Ruto without the blessings of the party.
And I want to tell the members of parliament who are going to State House, both in ODM, in Jubilee and in White, you're wasting your time. You are elected to represent the views of people on the floor of the House. Why do you want to go behind closed curtains to address that? Kutuambia ulienda kwa mambo ya development. You are given an open forum with live coverage so that we can see you articulating them. Not behind curtains. Why do you want to cross the people? Lazima uwe unatuuza pahali. Lazima uwe umepata kitu. There must be some tokens.
This is News. I am Dennis Oseto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanya.
Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It gets over
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes.
what the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself. When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was the secretary, she refused to. She's telling me, no. Leo tunataka wa mama. Leo ni wa mama. I'm telling her, no. She said, no, sio siku yenu. And I thought, there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
It will be called First Ladies until you change the name.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning and welcome to Thursday. Okay, what is it looking like on these Nairobi streets? We're looking at a bit of traffic that started to build up coming off of Waiyaki Way, heading into the city. James Gishuru looks good, at least for now. Into the city from the Thika Superhighway is free and clear. You'll be able to get in without too much of an issue. Northern Bypass, that's the one I was looking for. It looks good. And then speaking of another North Airport Road piles up a little bit as you get towards Outer Ring. But again, nothing too painful. Looks like we're starting off Thursday, right? Keep an eye on things and see how it pans out into the morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Keep things moving today.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start.
Welcome to Thursday. How are you doing? It's the 9th day of February 2023. Hey, we're still in this week. This week, Connie, it's not moving, no?
How do you want it to go? It's not Thursday. It's finished now.
It feels like it was Thursday 2 days ago.
You started the week at the weekend.
Hey. Man. Anyway.
Eyeglass.
Eh?
Let me clean my eyeglass.
So you clean mine also. When you're done. Daisy Maritime Minor is our guest host today. Good morning, Daisy.
Good morning, Eric.
How you doing?
Morning, Do.
Good morning, Daisy.
I'm very well. Very happy to be here as usual.
Have you been here this year?
I haven't. Actually, this is my first
Happy New Year, Daisy.
to the station.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Don't be like that. No.
Imagine.
Happy New Year and happy end week, Eric.
But now this week there's still some
End of week.
very many days to the end of the week. Hey, surely.
Yeah.
Ziko sawa? Hey. Daisy,
Now you can see Daisy properly.
Yeah. This is not how you looked out there. Hey.
The clarity.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Daisy,
Thank you very much.
thank you for joining us today as guest hosts. We have a lot to discuss and you'll be joining us in all those conversations.
Yeah.
It's good to hear your insights and your thoughts on, the things that are coming up in this country. Let me tell you what we'll be discussing. So, we have State Department for Correctional Services prisons, in other words. But you know what? You don't call them prisons. It's correctional services. Okay. The principal secretary is Mary Muroki, and we've been seeing her in the news. She's been doing tours of the prisons across the country. And one of the things that she's been very big on is seeing the children who are in prison with their mothers. It's basically because a mother has been incarcerated and the mother has a small child, and the child ends up going to prison with the mother. So is this child a prisoner? Is the child not a prisoner? Basically, the child is in a prison environment. So are they prisoners or not? And what's the plight of this? Remember, we also had a conversation with the founder of Clean Start.
Yes.
It's called what?
Teresa and Njoroge. Clean Start is the...
Clean Start. It's Clean Start what? Clean Start, not services. Clean Start, is it foundation?
It's something, but it's Clean Start. I need to remember what that is.
Yeah, Teresa Njoroge, who really, really champions the plight of women who are in prison. Many of them just jailed for petty offences. So what's the issue here now brings in the petty offences conversation. And the principal secretary will be joining us at 7 o'clock to discuss that issue of, what are they doing to sort out these children, first of all, and then talk about many, many people who have been incarcerated on petty offences, including women. At 8 o'clock, we want to talk about taxation. So, 3.6 trillion shilling budget is coming up.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ta-dang. And that means that we have a target to raise more money in the next financial year. The president has said he'd like us to get to, what was it? Was it 7 trillion shillings in the next, or 5 or 4 trillion shillings in the next 5 years. So basically, the target for KRA in the next year is going to rise. And Parliament will be looking at what to do with that. One of those industries that's getting seriously affected is the brewery industry, the alcoholic drinks industry. Excise duty has been raised 3 times in the last 1 year. 3 times in various ways. So Eric Kennedy is the Group Corporate Relations Director at EABL. He'll be coming here to tell us how these excise terms are crippling the impact on manufacturing. That's at 8 o'clock. 9 a.m., we have another conversation. This is with regards to the local oil marketing companies, the ones that are called independent. Now, independent has been given this connotation that independent means bad, independent means poor quality, independent means that independent actually the people who are investing, they control 50% of the oil marketing trade in the country, 50% of petrol stations, 50% of volumes. And their chairperson, the national chairperson of the United Energy and Petroleum Association of Kenya, Irene Kimathi, will be joining us at 9 a.m. to talk about why the government should support indigenous oil marketing companies. That is quite some morning to have, right?
Yep.
Geared up for it? Very good. Welcome, Ndu.
Yeah.
What's happening with COVID?
Okay, 676,817,736. That's what global numbers look like right now. Am I sinking? Do you see me go down? Like
What are you thinking?
About.
Okay, so those are what the global numbers look like. We're still saying the granddaughter of Omicron is doing its thing in the Western Hemisphere. And the winter season is not helping, looking at temperatures sub 20. As in sub negative 20 is what we're talking about now. So, of course, that is a perfect situation for any flu virus of the corona strain to do its thing. So the variant has really hit hard. But the interesting thing is that folks get serious symptoms. Hospitalizations of an acute nature have not really seen high proliferation. But the thing is that still asking folks to get vaccinated. Speaking of vaccinations, they've been going on in Kenya. Kitui County has so far vaccinated 154,620 against COVID-19 out of the eligible population as of a month ago. So looking at those numbers, Africa CDC Saving Lives and Livelihood Program saw the uptake of vaccines in the county increase. So Kitui is doing what they should be doing. I don't know about the rest of the country, saying, okay, let's vaccinate our people just in case. Ministry of Health estimated population eligible for vaccination at 624,000. So they've done about 20% of their population. 28,000 boosters were administered. And they're trying to replicate this idea around the country. So because, look, positivity rate for the last 1 year has been under 5%. In the last 6 months, it has been under 2%. In the last 3 months, negligible in terms of a trace. Okay?
Yeah.
But the thing is, get vaccinated. If you've not been vaccinated, what it does is offer you a line of protection, and that was what the Ministry of Health is insisting on across the country. It would be nice if you can get vaccinated. Do it, because they're saying
So somebody who wants a
vaccinations-
4th booster can walk in today and, well, it doesn't matter. You'll get.
Andrew Franklin told us the other day that he went to Nairobi Hospital.
And he got
was
a
going to
third.
be
Was
his
it a
third
third?
one?
Yeah.
So you go in, you get your thing, you're out.
How many boosters have you gotten, Daisy?
I haven't got any. I got the 2 vaccinations, but I haven't gotten a booster. And I was actually about to ask, what is the threshold for the number of boosters that you can get?
Who knows? Or like, do you want? You feel like today you need a booster? You can book in and get. I don't know.
Kaka hivi unasikia sijui aje
So it
booster.
depends on
Their
the state.
COVID. Yeah, I think it does depend on how many you have gotten. You know.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to know. In terms of availability around the country, they are available. You should
Really?
Yeah, that's what we're being told, man. If you're able to walk into a facility, get your shot, you'll be all right.
How many have you got? Eric, do?
I haven't gotten any booster. Just the 2 shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, those ones for the certificate.
Oh, you did it for the certificate.
For travel.
Okay,
For
sound
travel.
good.
17 minutes after 6, let's take a break. We want to take a look at the weather forecast shortly. Are you online? Say hello. Tell us where you're locked in from. Say hello to Daisy, who's our guest host today as well. And of course, don't forget to say hello to Edna. She likes it
Where?
when you do. Let's take a look at the weather shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is 00 Direct, woman host, music by women, and only women guest.
Everything is so larger than life. You kind of have to have a good understanding of who you are. You could easily lose yourself.
We have a global approach in the programs that we put together, meaning that it's not just about refining my business, it's about refining the industry, it's about touching the youth and making sure that in totality, change actually happens.
Catch 00 Direct every Saturday from 10 a.m.
Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, in Nairobi this morning, we're looking at cloudy conditions currently at 16 degrees. We'll go to highs of 29 today. Likelihood of even higher temperatures in the capital through today. It's mostly clear and we'll see lows of 16. Partly cloudy conditions at 16 in Nakuru, highs of 30 and lows of 13. And we'll see lows of 12 in a clear Nyeri at 13. It's 10 degrees and mostly clear in Eldoret, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 32 in Mombasa, where it's cloudy at 26. It's 26 and partly cloudy in Malindi, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Going into Kisumu, clear at 19, highs of 30. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 11 and lows of 1.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Morning. Who's online?
Good morning, everybody. Dennis Kipto says, good morning, tuned in from Kakamega County. Okay, well, good morning to you. Karibu Sana. Timboroa, that place I want to go and experience the cold. Clemo is in from there. He says the frequency, now somebody else now, says the frequency is weak in Bomet. Hope you're going to check that.
Okay.
Oh.
We will.
Okay. Francis Mwindi is tuned in and says, good morning, folks. Newton says, good morning. Tuned in forever. Allah. Amos Freeman says he's tuned in from Kimilili. And Nyan Pakir Nuoi is tuning in all the way from Australia this morning, well into the afternoon. Eric Nyamao is tuning in from Kisi. Beatrice and Genya tuned in this morning. And good morning from Paul Ntaia is tuned in as well. Daniel Jamhuri says good morning. Daktari Henry Ochoki is also tuned in. Okay, everybody's here. Okay, so quite a number of people tune in, and then the computer's doing this. Okay, Bamburi is where Paul Buru is. Pauline Shiro Good morning, Ndu, Daisy, Edna, and Eric. You should see, Daisy has hair she's like Rapunzel. She's beautiful.
That was the look.
Yeah. Ready to start the day. Have a great Thursday. Thank you. Waweru Ngede says good morning from Loresho. Masia Munga is tuned in from Zambia. Copper people. County 042. Good morning. That's where Tieno is tuned in this morning. Thanks for making our minds stay woke. Miss Kia. Woke. Amidst constant politicking and politricks, which is 254's peculiarity. Okay. Odero says he's tuning from the Great Wall of Kino and says good morning to you. Good morning, Ndu Eric. Happy to hear you this morning. City Centre Nisawa. Beautiful culture I saw yesterday at Magoa's funeral. Yes, indeed. Ohaneze Ndigbo. Yes, those are the ones who are doing that.
The Ohaneze
Ndigbo. Yeah.
Those are like 4 words, right?
It's 3 words. Ohaneze is 1 word.
Ndi and
Igbo. But then you join Ndi and Igbo together.
Okay.
The people of Igbo, that's a cultural group. It's like that. Okay.
Okay.
I
like
love the diversity. You guys have done exceptionally well. The nationwide appeal.
Yeah.
But also Zambia, Australia, America. Well done, guys.
Everybody is inside.
Everybody is in.
And Bernard.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Franklin.
We're also live from
Bernard Estate. And Andrew says, please note he was listening. So sorry if he said it was 4th.
It was a 4th booster.
Please note, I got my 2nd booster.
Okay.
So we're sorry to have taken your
It was a 4th shot.
Yeah, the 4th shot. And he said he walked in, walk out. 3 AstraZeneca, 1 Moderna. Pa. Happy man.
Noted.
So we have noted. We are very sorry. Even Nyang, I got to say this, says good morning, tuned in. Eric Ndu and Daisy, Karibu Sana. Eddie Odor Bana, I've been wondering where you are. Karibu Sana, he's tuning from Koru and then from South Dakota. Daniel is tuned in.
Everybody.
Did I see Kazakhstan?
You're likely to have seen Kazakhstan.
You did. Daniel Kip is tuning from Kazakhstan.
There you go.
Kazakhstan,
from
Kazakhstan
Kino
for
to
real.
Kazakhstan. Welcome everybody to Kenya's biggest conversation. I'm still doing the CT honors of the daily proverb. The proverbs this week are from Malawi. When you go to take a bath, what is that thing that you do? Do you bath or do you bathe?
Well, you bathe in a bath.
Okay. So when you take a bath, you bathe.
Yes.
Okay? Now, if you're going to bathe, make sure that you are thoroughly wet.
When you're going or...
If you are going to bathe, get thoroughly wet.
Otherwise, it's not a bath.
So it's about going the full 100. I suppose the bath just signifies whatever somebody intends to do.
Do it properly.
Do it properly.
In Swahili, they say, ukiyavulia, sharti uyaoge.
Okay, what?
Ukiyavulia.
Avulia. What's avulia?
Ukiyavulia. Kuvua ni kutoa guo. Kuvua guo ni kutoa guo. So haya maji ukiyavulia guo. Sharti uyaoge. Sawa.
I like it.
All right, let's take a look at the newspaper headlines. What's on the front pages?
On the front pages, let me give you a sneak peek. On the Standard, before we even get to this Ruto, Raila, Uhuru, whatever. Learning is yet to start in some grade 7 classes, mind you.
Some.
So some are teaching something. I don't know where they got their teachers from.
Okay.
But learning is yet to start. Today is 3 days after the resumption. 3 days after the opening of schools, lower secondary. They never starts. Okay. Beware, hot weather comes with many diseases. It's going to get hotter at least for another week, is what the Met is telling us. And farmers are thronging at the NCPB for cheap fertilizer. That program apparently is starting. Honoring Magoa, yes, we see the pictures yesterday. He went through the city from his old boys at Starehe to St. George's to State House Girls, and then to his home in Lavington. It was good to see. And yes, indeed, celebration of his life by the culture of Barbara Odudu, who is his widow. And then, since we can't avoid it, Ruto power onslaught on Uhuru Raila base. President William Ruto has gone on overdrive, decimating opposition numbers in parliament, a move that has raised questions on parliamentary independence, given that majority have sworn allegiance to him. So that's carried on page 6 and 7. That'll be interesting. On the front page of The Nation, Matiangi under siege, under police siege. Night of long knives. Former Interior Minister Fred Matiangi was a man under siege last night. Amid reports, police had raided his home in Karen. The reason for the siege, however, was not immediately clear. That story is there. Raila has called for crisis talks. NSSF rates will hurt workers, says employers lobby. That's on the back page of The Nation. And unfortunately, we're seeing the death toll in Turkey rise to over 11,000. Less than 24 hours.
Still going up. Let me tell you what's in the front page of the People Daily. We are broke, says Dongo. Cabinet Secretary warns Kenyans to tighten their belts with indications that the government is hard-pressed to raise funds by seeking loans from lenders to meet its obligations.
The belt has not finished.
Please tighten some more.
The belt is finished.
Please tighten some more. Please.
There are no more notches on the belt.
Please just tighten your... Please, okay? Because we are broke. The amount of money that the National Treasury sought as an overdraft from the Central Bank of Kenya, revealing dire need for cash, 30 billion shillings overdraft. Kenya is running on OD. Higher. Ruto hosts Jubilee MPs in wider plot to isolate Raila. Of course, that's there. And the headline as well on what's happening in Turkey and the death toll rising. It's those are the headlines. Pick one then. Tell us about that school thing.
This story is giving me very high anxiety.
Which one?
This one for we've not started teaching, Abi.
Yes, it is. And that's not the only problem. Because one, there is missing teachers at the junior secondary schools. And then the other thing is that, and what the Standard is reporting, is that schools are interpreting the curriculum differently as they see it fit. So it looks like this is an exercise in experimentation. Which schools are children are a terrible pool of guinea pigs. They should not be guinea pigs.
Nope.
I was reading this story and I'm thinking, regionally or historically, Kenya, we've always had very high literacy rates. We are highly educated people. And this, with a combination of other factors like our work ethic, etc., has made us actually export skills and talents and experience. You go to a hotel in Tanzania, a good hotel in Tanzania, it's quite likely that you'll find that the hotel manager is Kenyan, right? But here we are with our next generation of Kenyans, of the brains that will run this country, and we are joking. We are experimenting. So it's quite... It's giving me such anxiety. And then you look at the rest of the world moving at lightning speed. I saw a statistic that the average IQ of populations around the world is increasing by 3 percentage points every decade. And here we are preparing our children to compete in a world as previous guinea pigs. It's giving me anxiety, this story.
It's actually not a funny story. This is a really sad state of affairs to be in, because, like we said, this is not the first rollout. This is not grade 1. When it was grade 1, you could have said, all right, so we didn't have teachers, you didn't have classes, blah, blah, blah. But this has been 7 years in the making, 8 years in the making. It was clear that at some point, grade 6s are going to go into junior secondary, grade 7. The fact that, number one, we were not even clear whether they're going to secondary school or to primary school, that is. The second bit, that we actually did not even know what kind of teachers we needed to increase to hire so that they could take up this. Those teachers needed to have been hired earlier so that they'd be trained on the CBC curriculum. Now you're talking about recruiting teachers now, TSC is recruiting teachers now and posting them to go and teach JSS. These teachers have not been teaching the last 1 year.
That's another critical pain point, because teachers are the most important driver of how students learn in school. And then it's beyond just pedagogy, it's beyond the academic aspect, you know. These are the people who inspire and nurture. They're the external parents.
Yep.
So it is problematic on a lot of fronts. Not a good story to wake up to.
Nope.
It's not at all. Not at all. And the issue here is they have not started learning because
There are no teachers.
there are no teachers.
TSC is, still waiting to hire the 30,000 that they said they would in November last year. It was November.
Some
that they
school
said
heads
after
have
Christmas.
been told that, we've posted several 4 teachers to teach 12 subjects. None of the 4 teachers has arrived. 4 teachers, some schools have 5 streams of grade 7.
Yeah.
And there are 4 new teachers who are coming. So primary school teachers are now trying to teach these junior secondary teachers. It's
dizzying.
It is chaotic.
Why is it that we like to operate with the element of surprise?
Yes.
Surprise, the school year is starting. Surprise, a drought is
It's like Russian roulette.
it's on the way.
Yeah.
Put a bullet in the chamber. Let's see which one is going to
That's
hit
a good
the
description.
mark.
Russian roulette. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens. Okay, it's our children one day. Okay, no problem. It's 4 million people who are dying from drought. Okay, next it's okay.
It's not funny at all.
I mean,
At all.
It's quite grim.
Yeah.
It's quite grim.
And this one now goes even beyond Belio Kipsang. It goes beyond Machogu. It goes beyond Regigi. It goes to the president himself. This is an entire generation. We're talking about 1 million children.
Yes.
1 million children who've been going through this, and you don't know what you're doing with them.
the working party, if they did, if forget about all those nice flowery recommendations, they should have put one thing on that interim report. We need teachers. Now that we are moving, because it was clear by the time the working party was being instituted, it was clear that this CBC was not going anywhere.
Yeah.
It was just, talking in the wind. It should have been, tell us now, as we are taking grade 7, who is going to teach them? That's all they should have put on the interim report. That's all. All these other things will fade out later.
It's even better to all agree that, okay, we are not ready with this year. So can these grade 7s have like a sort of a gap year? So grade 7 is going to be a gap year. They're going to be transitioning from primary. So they can still be taught by their primary teachers as we get ourselves organized. For next year, they go into junior secondary. Let's not say that you've gone into junior secondary and in 2 years' time they'll be moving into senior secondary. To do what? Let's take a break. It's 27 minutes to 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Congratulations. You've seen the hand of the Lord.
Thank you very much. I've earned another title today, this morning at SpiceFM. Mama Justice, I don't mind it.
Joel?
No, I don't work for you. You work for me.
Do you like that Freudian slip? Lovely, isn't it? Thank you very much.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Okay, few minutes after 6:30, and we're looking at traffic building in different parts of the city. It doesn't look too bad coming off of Kiambu Road. That's yet to start, but we'll see that drama, that's for sure. On the Thika Superhighway, it's past the Utali College now, and well past the junction at Allsops. We're also seeing traffic that's building up on Gong Road. It's also starting to do the thing on James Gishuru. Look at at Jogo Road and coming out through towards Landys Road. No traffic as such on Landys Road, but we know that is going to build up in a short while. On the Eastern Bypass, as you're approaching that AP Training College Junction, there's a lot of traffic here as well. It's building up, touching on Outer Ring. Manyanja is also building up. It's crazy on Juja Road, as well as Kangunda Road. Moving slowly, and likely to come to a standstill at some point. The Southern Bypass says, come, use me this morning. I don't have traffic. Think about it. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us through the morning and let's keep things moving this Thursday.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
All right, 24 minutes to 7. The lawn rains are coming and farmers in the North Rift have started receiving the subsidized fertilizer. There are long queues at the NCPB stores in Eldoret, Wasingishu County. A photo here in the Standard shows the queues, page 19. Queues at NCPB Eldoret, and the farmers are saying this thing is going on very well. So several farmers who've been interviewed here. For example, one of them called Francis Rono from Keses in Wasingishu, said he expected to receive his share of the fertilizer by the afternoon. He was found in the morning. He says he received an SMS on Monday, went to NCPB only to find a long queue. He was placed at number 431 and 300 farmers had already been served by morning. He expects to collect the input. He said it may not be economical for some farmers to travel long distances for 1 or 2 bags of the product. Charles Kanda said he collected his 20 bags after a long wait. The process is transparent but slow. He wants the government to employ more clerks at the NCPB to help speed up distribution. Someone is saying that they started with the chiefs and then agriculture officials. Then they received an SMS from Safaricom with a code urging them to report to the nearest NCPB depot for redemption. KFA, that's Kenya Farmers Association Director Kipkorir Menjo, says this time round distribution of subsidized fertilizer is impressive. Those who have received text messages have collected their rations. It's also timely and farmers will prepare well for the planting season. So it seems people so far are happy. Come, queue, you receive an SMS, you go show your SMS, the code you get, and it starts with registration with the local chief and agriculture officials.
Do you know I like this story and I hate it at the same time?
Tell me.
Because there's proof that such things in an orderly fashion, an orderly manner, can actually happen, and that there's recorded data, and this information is flowing, and you can actually have things happen in an organized manner. Why? Now, why I hate it? Because why can this same thing then not be applied in, like the previous story you read, for example, when it comes to schools and teachers? Because you've shown you can do it. So why can't you have the same MO in other sectors? Why? Why can you shine in one
and not the other?
And then not the other.
And you're the same person.
Schizophrenic. I don't get it. I don't understand.
Is it a question of prioritization? And then you ask, what informs that prioritization? Because as from the outside looking in, as laymen, we would think education should be very high, extremely high on the priority list.
That's it. Even this story, by the way, I look at it, I'm happy that the farmers are saying they're happy. The farmers who have gone there so far saying they're happy. I just want an audit of the process afterwards. Okay? For example, because it is chiefs and agriculture officers who are recording people in the villages, do we know whether they're actually recording the right amount per farmer? Do we know whether there are any games being played at that point? We've seen these things before. Fertilizer comes, it's supposed to be subsidized, it's supposed to be given to farmers, and then it ends up in shops. How? Because somebody went there and they collected a higher ration than they should have. This thing, I hope that it ends up clean, but I'll wait until it's over, all the fertilizer has been given out, and the audit has been done, and it comes up and says, actually, this thing was okay. Until then, anyway, farmers are getting the fertilizer. Also, I'd like to know, when the farmers are getting the fertilizer at 3,500, how much did the government buy the fertilizer for? So how much is it costing us to actually subsidize fertilizer to 3,500? Because that's also something.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Remember KEMSA?
Kenya Medical Supplies Authority.
Yeah. Now, KEMSA is going to lose its procurement function in planned changes. Because, give you something, don't do it
It will lose its procurement function.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
We give you something, you don't do it well, you mismanage. So what do?
You take it away from you.
Take it away from you.
Yeah.
The National Drug Distributor may lose its procurement function should the Ministry of Health implement a raft of proposed reforms. According to Susan Nahumicha, the CS for Health, she said plans are underway to transfer the procurement function to other entities. Now, the question you would have to ask after you look at this story is, those other entities, what do they have that would ensure that the same thing that happened when KEMSA had the procurement entity or will not happen there? But okay.
Okay, so now KEMSA it becomes what?
Just be like that, storage
a depot.
facility. Yeah. Bring, distribute.
Depot and distribution.
Yes. Okay. Because 7.8 billion shilling scandal is not a joke.
No, it's not.
That kind of money cannot just be lost and then we keep quiet and then we still allow you to do it again. No, please. No. The according to, she said, if KEMSA is unable to do procurement, and the way we can judge this inability is if you lose 7.8 billion, then clearly there's a problem. So what do? We remove the function. What we will do is that we'll leverage on the strengths that you actually do have then. Can you store and... very good. Can you distribute? Very good. Now, you focus on that. They said, we promised affordability of commodity and healthcare, and this is purely the responsibility of KEMSA. We are rethinking what strategies to use in terms of procurement to meet the basic needs of Kenyans. And that's what now, if this comes through, that's what's going to do. She revealed the ministry had developed guidelines for collaboration between KEMSA and all health institutions, private, public, and faith-based, to achieve economies of scale. Remember last year there was dead stock of worth billions of shillings. We never saw the dead stock. We were just told there was dead stock. There was a procurement scam that saw a few individuals pocket billions of supplies during this whole COVID thing. And now they couldn't sell them later. Story. They're also accused of overstating the value of medicines by 640 million shillings, with some types of drugs having been inflated 100 times after an audit by the Global Fund. Some of these drugs, which were bought with cash from the Global Fund, expired amid a biting shortage in government hospitals. So you can imagine, according to them, there were drugs, they expired. There are no drugs at, county hospitals. How do you even make it work? So the CS has said, it's enough. You do what you can do best. Let us use somebody else to buy, but it will not be you. It can never be you. Not again.
Okay. So we're going to have a new entity called Medical Procurement something.
I don't know. So, yeah, but it's going to...
There was a proposal, though. There was a proposal to do it like in the oil sector, an open tender system. So everybody who is involved in procurement of medical supplies, counties and all the hospitals give their needs, just like oil marketing companies do, and then it's all put on the table. So this is what we require. We need malaria queen, chloroquine, diclofenac, X amount, COVID vaccine, X amount. And then you, KEMSA, and you, Daisy, who's a supplier, and you, religious, faith-based hospitals who also have your own supply chain, you all come and bid. And the lowest bidder gets the contract to supply. So economies of scale now finally begins to make sense, because everybody is bidding, and then you bid and you supply the need for the entire country. And then now KEMSA does the job of selling to the counties and the hospitals.
Sounds prudent.
Let's say there's things on paper.
That's the thing. It sounds prudent, the transfer, only that you hope that it's not transferring the same thing just to another entity.
Yeah,
the same practice.
Yep.
The headline on the Standard is interesting. Ruto power onslaught on Uhuru Raila base. It says President William Ruto has gone on overdrive decimating opposition numbers in parliament, a move that has raised questions on parliamentary independence, given that majority have sworn allegiance to him. It has also cast a spotlight on opposition leaders Raila Odinga and former President Uhuru Kenyatta, who have been outwitted on matters legislation and oversight. The act is bound to deflate the rallies called by Azimio to agitate for the lowering of the cost of living and a push for electoral reforms. The story is it surprising? No. Is it alarming? Yes. Why? Because of course this move, this overt co-option of the opposition jeopardizes the very essence of the separation of powers, right? Legislature is to make the laws, the executive to operationalize it, and the judiciary to interpret the law. But then what we are seeing is a move to the executive doing all three.
Yeah.
Making the law, operationalizing, and interpreting the law. It is politically expedient. Of course, it's not, as I said, it's not surprising. For William Ruto, it's politically expedient, but it's obviously democratically damaging.
What are all these 345 MPs doing, thinking? Because they are the ones, clearly we have 345 men and women in the National Assembly, plus at the other 60 whatever in the Senate, who do not understand that they have a power. And the power to oversight, to legislate, to remain independent. They don't feel like they do. They feel that they have to kowtow to the person in State House so that things can move.
For them.
So their work can get done.
And that kowtowing is not... Is it on behalf of the people that they're representing or on their own behalves?
They claim that it's on behalf of the people they're representing. That's what they claim. Of course, it's on their own behalf because in the very end, like we had Jalango here yesterday and he was telling us, look,
I heard,
I've got projects. People in Langata voted for me and they need to see things moving.
Yes, I heard him say that this is the difference between politics and development.
Yeah.
It sounds very good, but politics never ends.
Yeah.
And, as a politician and as a new politician, he is constantly playing politics and looking out for himself. And that's just what it is.
Yep.
Where, to give it a name.
That's what they'll do. They'll always look out for themselves, but they have the tools to do that without necessarily bending over backwards for the executive. They have the tools to do that. I mean, Parliament makes budget.
Yes.
Parliament does not expend budget or just sit and approve, but it makes the budget. Parliament appropriates funds to the various projects. They have the oversight tool. If we got to a level where actually Parliament decided, so this is it, we have sat down and there's proper lobbying and caucusing within Parliament, such that you can say, members of Parliament representing this certain region have come together. Let's say the Nyanza region, for example. They've come together and they've said, these are the areas that we need to allocate resources to in the next financial year. And let's go and lobby so that money is actually appropriated for projects that are of this nature. Then they'll tell the executive, this is what we need. Here's the money. After that, it's following up to make sure that that job is done. But it appears like, we are going to the executive to ask, sitafadhali ujenge hii barabara. And you're the one who made the budget. And you appropriated money
It should be the other way around.
to the ministry to... How? I understand. I agree with what you're saying. It's actually... disconcerting to see that this is happening. The president is looking at it and seeing these guys don't understand what they're supposed to be doing, and if I let them operate like that,
so I will take
I'm
advantage of that lack of understanding.
So that I can get things done without very many questions. But then the leadership of the other side, especially the minority leadership, instead of having those uniformed rallies in Machakos and Busia, they should be caucusing the members of Parliament and just telling them, guys, let's focus. This is the agenda. Let's push this way. And showing that you are an alternative leadership. Right now, there's nothing alternative. You just don't feel like there's going to be any difference if it was Ruto or Raila in State House. I just don't see it.
The other thing also is that at the executive level and at the parliamentary level, they have already... just months into the new administration, shifted gears to 2027.
Chap.
So this is what it's all about. Everything else is the fluff that makes up the conversation.
This is all campaigning already. It's campaign mode.
Sadly so.
It's people looking out for themselves for the coming 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. New NSSF rates will hurt employees, according to lobby group. The Federation of Kenya Employers President Habil Olaka and Executive Director CEO Jacqueline Mugo addressed journalists last year They warned that the increase in NSSF contributions could hurt employees. Last year, they said this.
Yep.
But so now this year has come and there's going to be an increase, so they're talking again. They've called for dialogue on the new NSSF rates, warning that higher deductions could destabilize workers and jeopardize existing private pension schemes. So we heard last year that the Court of Appeal had allowed the tenfold increase from the 200 shillings to 2,068 in workers' monthly contributions to NSSF. It ruled that a lower court did not have the powers to hear a case challenging the validity of the new rate. So they had talked about this. Lower court said, no, well, stop. Higher court said, well, no, you lower court, you don't have jurisdiction here. The rates go to 10 times. The increase in pension contributions will be an expensive undertaking to both employers and employees, as it has a direct financial impact on payroll costs and on the employer's take-home pay. So obviously going to take home less. Employees take-home pay, rather. We therefore propose a phase-out approach, the Federation said. Yesterday, FKE said that the issue of whether the new NSSF Act satisfied the constitutional threshold of public participation before being enacted had not been adequately addressed. So it's just going to go back there. And we've seen things like this being thrown out on a technicality, whether public participation took place or not for you to... So, you know, they're saying, look, rather than for us to go back into this thick weed of, are we going to have... Did we have public participation or not? How about we phase it in slowly? Can you do twice? Then maybe 4 times. Not 10 times at once.
Not everything goes.
No. So they're saying that before the act is implemented, meaningful stakeholder engagement sessions should be held so that both workers and employees have ample time to adjust their budgets to accommodate the sharp increase. But this 10-time thing at once... You're hurting people more than you're helping them. It'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. Did you know that your electricity bill has come down? Did you notice?
Electricity bill has come down.
Reprieve as electricity prices drop slightly.
By how much?
A whisper.
Why?
Okay, let me tell you. Just quickly.
Who has given us?
Wait now. Electricity consumers have been handed a little reprieve after the energy sector regulator cut power prices for February by 3.8%. This February that we're inside now. Citing lower global crude prices that ease the cost of producing thermal power. Data from Kenya Power shows that EPRA cut the fuel cost charge from, get this, 7.18 shillings per unit in January to 6.59 per unit this month. So,
so for that reason, we got some reprieve of some 60 cents.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
A shilling.
Reductions are always slight. Increases are always tenfold.
I know. Enjoy. So, live it up.
Meanwhile, you Nigerians are colourful in your weddings and colourful in your funerals. This is a beautiful send-off. The Magoa's last tour, farewell caravan for Magoa. I think on the Standard, I have the Standard. It's on page 13, and there's some beautiful pictures there. There is a Ndu, you're telling us Naeza Ndi Igbo.
Ohaneze Ndigbo.
Ohaneze Ndigbo.
Yeah.
Beautiful display of culture, and a celebration of life. You know, one of the Nigerian ladies was saying that if it was a child, we would be mourning, but it is an adult who lived a very illustrious life, and so we are here to help our sister celebrate his life. Very beautiful.
It was a beautiful one, and I think one of the good things is that the community came to stand by their sister. You know, in a foreign country, you've lost your husband, but you're made to feel no, you're not on your own. And it was a whole Nigerian affair. It's like Magoa was Nigerian, and it's you know, Magoa married Nigerian.
Very true.
And then that whole procession of being taken to his former schools. Going to Starehe, going to the places where he headed, the medical council, the University of Nairobi, the primary schools.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful one. That was a good send-off.
For sure.
I loved to see the display of culture as well, because there's obviously an erosion of culture when it comes to, both celebrations and mourning and that kind of thing, because then you would expect to see a spread on the newspaper that is, people wearing black, for instance, because we have subscribed to, cultures that are outside our own. If you look at the pictures on the paper, it's people in colorful clothes. It's actually a reflection of what they're saying verbally that we are celebrating, and even physically you can see that is what it is, a celebration of a life.
That was a beautiful one.
Very beautiful.
Let me take you to Mombasa. More than 3 months after he took office, Governor Abdul Samad Sharif Nasir appears to have made some progress in forming his own executive. On Tuesday evening, he named 16 appointees to serve as chief officers in his administration, which he ran alongside Hassan Joho's team. In the team, he has retained the chief officers, Albert Keno in the transport and infrastructure docket, ICT's Anwar Said, Khamis Kurichwa retained as chief officer for youth, sports and social services, but he has now named some 16 new appointees. The nominees await vetting by the county assembly. The governor has since nominated Dr. Mbwarali Kame as chief county executive member for education, digital transformation, Evans Owanda, finance and economic planning, Swale Omar, health, Daniel Manyala, transport and infrastructure. And so basically, he has taken quite a while, but he's finally doing it. I think it's all right.
Say that.
Remember what he said is he wants it to be public participation. He formed a panel to recruit a government for him. I think it's just too much time wasted.
Yeah. So nothing has happened for 5 months.
Elastic democracy.
He had said he would go for professionals who were aligned with his campaign agenda for cabinet and chief officer appointees to promote the county's economic growth. So if he was going to look for people who align with his campaign agenda, why have other people appointing them?
See, those would have been clear.
Just appoint them yourself. You're the one who knows who was working with you. I think that's just taken too much time. But let's wait and see. The pudding and the eating and all those things come together. We will see them. Coming to the top of the hour, a very good morning to you. In the next hour, we speak to the Principal Secretary in the State Department for Correctional Services. But in a give. Nini here in a give?
Showmax.
Showmax in a give. In a give, Nini? Ebu tell Daisy.
It's give in a... Okay, let me say it.
Mwambie.
In a give, 300 shillings. You pay Showmax subscription for a month. Then you do what? You get 2 months.
Wonderful.
For 300. You can watch movies, you can watch series, you can watch documentaries, you can watch live news, you can watch live sports. 300 bob, 1 month. Then you pay another month.
That is fantastic.
See, in a give.
In a give.
This month of February is not just about love. It's no. In fact, this is the best gift. My lovely Valentine, 300 bob.
Bob, here you go. Here is information, entertainment.
Showmax. You watch all you want, okay? Tusumbuane, tumamalizana.
Say I love you.
Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is New Time, Dennis Aseto. Questions continue to be asked this after former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiangi's home was surrounded by security officers who are believed to have been on a mission to arrest him. It is not yet clear why the officers were at Matiangi's home. However, leaders led by Azimio leader Raila Odinga, Kisii Governor Simba Arati and some MPs made their way to Matiangi's home, including his lawyers led by Dunstan Omari. Raila, while condemning the incident, demanded that if there is a matter that Matiangi needs to respond to, he should be summoned at a police station and asked to record a statement instead of being harassed.
And I was shocked to hear that this is happening at this hour of the day. They say that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Because if Mr. Matiangi had committed a crime, He's a Kenyan and he lives in Kenya. There's time to go and actually serve him with a notice to appear before a police station. There's no reason why police should be coming to somebody's private residence at this time of the day when people are asleep. This means that police themselves are actually guilty of committing a crime.
Dunstan Omari said his client is ready to present himself before the police to record a statement.
My client is holed up as if he's a fugitive in his own country. This is a former minister in charge of security. This is a former minister in charge of the police. This is a minister who has served the citizens of this country. Civility must be retained. We can't have a rogue government that comes at the midnight to arrest the former CS. If they want the former CS, and that's what we are telling everybody, we will provide him.
He confirmed that they were aware of the plans to arrest Matiangi but did not know the reason, saying the officers cannot be allowed to enter his home until they present a court order.
We will remain steadfast to defend our client. More than 200 advocates are surrounding Matiangi, and we are ready, all of us, to be arrested so long as Matiangi's life is safe. But I will assure every Kenyan and everybody in the whole world that we need this country to be put to check. We can't bring our country down. The pillars of democracy, the pillars of civility must be respected.
We continue to follow up on this developing story. Be sure that Newswire will be bringing you the very latest in a subsequent news bulletin. Now, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u is conceding that the country's economy is in a strained status, citing lack of resources to finance key public expenditure. Simply put, the country is in a financial hole, and Ndung'u, while equating the national budget to a household, said the available resources were less than the illicit expenses, asking Kenyans to be patient.
Ukiwa unaishi kwa hii nchi, umejua vile tuko na matatizo ya hera. Kwa hivyo lazima unajua hiyo. Okay? It is something that we have to resolve. We have a resource constraint. Hatuna hera, lazima tujisaidie. Lakini tukipata hera, yote yatawezekana. Tumetoka mbali. Huyo upungufu itakuisha, lakini hatuwezi kusema leo ama kesho itakuishia, lakini tutatatiza hiyo shinda. Wakati wenyewe utakuja, wakati tutasema tumesaidika, lakini sisi bado tuko kwa shimo. Lazima tujue hiyo.
His concession on the state of the country's economy dampens hopes of reduced cost of living for millions of Kenyans currently in distress. He was speaking during an induction forum for the Senate Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. Now, in yet another daring attack, bandits in Baringo County attacked a village in Muchongoi and drove away livestock. The daring attack occurred only 60 kilometers from where Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki was holding a regional security meeting with the Rift Valley Security Command to draw up a plan on how to engage the bandits, with the militia coming out to prove they weren't deterred. The bandits engaged police in a fierce battle, raiding Lemeyo village in broad daylight and drove away 60 goats, out of overpowering the police reservist. The attack came 5 days after another attack in Turkana, where they killed one person in Lomelo. During the closed-door meeting attended by security chiefs, including security heads in Baringo, West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet counties, the security team planned a major operation to be mounted in the region to flush out the bandits. The CSA is today expected to spearhead a charged operation to recover the goats and flush out bandits from the area. And at least 18 people in southern eastern Niger have died of meningitis in the past 3 months. This is according to WHO, warning that the outbreak could spread to other countries. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Traffic on the Thika Superhighway this morning, heavy getting into the city. It's also in and outbound now on Kiambu Road, where an hour ago it didn't exist. It is jam-packed getting towards Muthaiga Square. Also looking at it heavy on Huru Highway, getting into the city and then out towards Westlands. There's also incoming traffic from Westlands, Waiyaki Way, coming in from Kangemi. That started early as well. James Gishuru in and outbound is heavy as it crosses over Waiyaki Way. We're looking at Ngong Road that has built up as well. Naivasha Road, Gitanga Road, that whole area is starting to do the Thursday morning business. Jogo Road is busy. Outer Ring also, some traffic here and there. And you have your triple roads of Manyanja, Kangundo and Juja Road. Very busy right now. So it looks like we're starting traffic out early today. See what happens. Hopefully we can keep things moving and safe. Talk to us on SpiceFM, KE, whatever you may see.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning and welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. This is a Situation Room. We're broadcasting live on SpiceFM. We are now live on KTN Home, in addition to our online platforms, live on Facebook and live on YouTube. We have a guest in the studio. This is a Principal Secretary in the State Department for Correctional Services, Miss Mary Muroki. She is here now. What we do with all our guests every morning is we welcome them with the day's proverb. Normally, that is done by C.T. Muga, who is on leave this week. So I've been given the honors, and he left the whole list with instructions for the dose. Hii ni proverb ya Thursday. So today is Thursday, and I'm checking what City had said. The proverbs are from Malawi this week. The one for the day is, if you're going to bathe, get thoroughly wet. If you're going to bathe, get thoroughly wet. PS, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
That's an interesting one.
Is it?
And if you
what's your interpretation of it?
You can't really go to bed when you have your clothes on. Yes. So you have to clear. If you want to, it's just like if you want to change the world, go home and make your bed. If you can't make your bed, you can change the world. So the same case, if you really want to get clean, then you got to get off your clothes and clean yourself up.
If you want to, if you're going to bathe, get thoroughly wet. Make sure that you do. It's been a couple of months now since you were sworn in. You took the oath of office and said you were going to serve the people in the Republic of Kenya as the Principal Secretary for Correctional Services.
2 months precisely.
2 months only.
Congratulations. Thank you.
It's only been 2 months.
Yep.
Hala. Okay. Good that you're counting. That means it's been an experience. It's been an experience.
And work has timelines.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You've got. How has this experience been so far?
I think for anybody who loves working, it's a great experience. And really, when I wake up every morning, I just think of what is the next impactful thing that we must do for the society and for the citizens of this country. And every day I walk to work, I always remember that I have a problem to solve for the Kenyans.
Okay. Correctional services is prisons. Is it only prisons?
No. The State Department for Correctional Services is a department within the Ministry of Interior, and it has 2 units. has the Kenya Prison Service and the Probation Services. Most people know about prison because that is the most pronounced because of the nature of our clients. But the difference between probation and the prison is prison, we have custodial services. Custodial is you contain the people. While probation services, we have non-custodial, meaning the judge could simply just say, I'm not going to take you to prison. I will send you back home and sweep the road or sweep the chief's camp or maybe carry stones in a school construction site. So that is the difference. But both are sentences. You have been sentenced either to 3 months, 5 months, or even six months, Yes. So that is correctional services. And our mandate is purely to correct people, not punish.
Okay.
Did you say clients? Do you call them clients?
Sorry. Sometimes you don't want to really use very harsh words.
Yes.
I think you need to be moderate in the manner in which you refer to people, because at the end of the day, they are human beings. They are
receiving
brothers,
a service.
and they're receiving a service. They are getting corrected, and they are our brothers. They are our sisters. They are our mothers, our fathers, our children. So really, at the end of the day, it's about how do we really look into the holistic part of correcting a human being behavior and mannerisms, so that you can integrate in the society really well.
When a judge or a judicial officer is sentencing you either into prison or for probation, they don't say that I expect you to come out here smiling, a better person, and we'll be judging you on this. They just say go to jail or go into this probation service for X duration.
Absolutely.
Now, then it's your mandate to interpret what that means in terms of correcting someone. So what does correction mean to the prison service and the probation services?
Correcting means an end to end. It's like a value chain of some sort. When you enter into that sentence or in prison or non-custodial services, what you do in there or what we do with you while in there and post-sentence. When you get back to the society, how is it received? What have you learned? Have you reformed or thereabout? And I'll take you on a simple roadmap of a prisoner. When someone is taken to remand, then you're taken to court and you're sentenced. We receive you either in prison or for non-custodial services. While in prison, we ensure that we equip you with physical and soft skills to ensure that by the time you clear your sentence, you are a different person. And that is why in prison, you'll find this chaplaincy and their shakes, just for the food for the soul. We are also doing a lot of trainings, carpentry, masonry, sewing, dressmaking, and all those types of skills that when that person gets out there, they are able to utilize them. If somebody stole your chicken today, probably it's because of the economic times. But if you equip that person with a skill that they would go out there, even get something like a hustler fund and be able to start up their own kiosk along the road or somewhere, then you have empowered that person. Again, we also include courses like counseling, psychiatric issues, just to ensure that you calm that person down. Remember, there are things you cannot do to a person who is already grinding on the ground. You cannot show them unkindness. It's good to be empathetic to this person, to touch their hearts so that they are ready to at least change from what they have been to somebody who can easily be able to work well with other people in the society. We also have prisoners who sit for formal education. we have quite a number. This year alone, we had 700 who sat for KCP, and our first students candidate actually had 399.
Mhm.
We have prisoners.
Are they going to Alliance? They should go to Alliance.
Well, that's a conversation. Yes, they should go to Alliance, but that's a conversation because there's a whole lot of other things that are coupled around that. We also have prisoners who sit for KCSE. And our first candidate, who is from Western region, had an A-. And they'll be joining university. So again, it's a whole lot of changing the person and showing them that there's a different other way to ensure that you are able to be incorporated in the society. We also have NITA courses that are they are certified. So when they go out there, they are not just the way they came through. We have a lot to do while the prisoner is going out. And this is where also the probation department really comes through. Reintegration in the society. We have had cases where the probation officer comes to your home and talks to the members of the family and asks them, are you ready for your son, your daughter? And they say, no, he killed. He murdered someone. He stole something. He did many other things. And they still feel that that person is really the bad person in our community. So it's upon us to also educate the masses that these people are human beings. They have undergone phases that have helped them become a better person. And that is why we exist as correctional services.
Looking at the period that people spend within the prison services specifically, that has been looked at quite some, and some of the things that we're talking about today, specifically for women who then go into prison to serve a sentence and they have children. First off, I mean, we've heard this categorization, but if you can, for some clarity, these children are not the criminals. Unfortunately, they're at an age where the burden of care for them still rests on their mothers, quite a lot. Their care is concerning. There's cause for concern and how they are taken care of. I mean, we've heard the stories of how, young babies then don't have adequate care and protection. We've also heard the fantastic stories of patrons, for example, at the Langata Women's Prison, who have gone out of their way to take care of these women and their children. What's the status at the moment in terms of improvement?
Okay. First and foremost, let me point out the real issues that, from where I sit, I feel that these children are really not supposed to be there. One, children in prison are very vulnerable and are likely to develop health and behavioral change. When we talk about health, we are talking about communicable diseases. When we talk about behavioral change, they are interacting with everybody. So at the end of the day, this child is actually picking the mannerisms of the people in there. And possibly they are not the very best of the mannerisms. Then the incarcerated mothers, they also have children back home. Remember, when a policeman picks you in the streets, they may not ask you whether you have a child or not. They pick you because of the crime you have committed. Take you to remand, you're taken to court. And the judge may not also ask you whether you have children. So most of the time, most of the rights of these children, of imprisoned mothers, the presence is not acknowledged. And again, in judiciaries, it's not acknowledged in judicial reasoning and decisions of this sentencing. Therefore, it is prevalent that we have not really thought through on how these children should be taken care of. We may have some of our prisons, we have maybe courts, separate courts for the smaller kids. But again, for the bigger kids, they will have to sleep with their mothers and all that. Therefore, the call and the clarion to this is to ensure that we have a basis on how these children may get out of prison. If you look at these mothers, most of them are on petty cases. Maybe you are selling mandazi in the streets. You put in for 6 months. That child is with you. Probably you may have either texted somebody and told them bad things, and then like in one of the prisons I visited, and a guy is in, and it's because he called somebody Murogi.
That was it.
That was it.
Right.
But it's a crime. I mean, you're framing me to be a Murogi, so it's a crime. Yeah, and you're in. But you see, this is where we call for, if there's a child who has there's a mother who has a child, can probably the judicial system work on a way to know this mother has a child, and we can change the type of sentencing that we give to this mother at any given time. A clear legal guideline on whether the child should be separated from the mother or not. Recognition of the child's presence in court is very important. Again, not unless the mother poses a very serious risk to the society, that is when the mother should really be contained. Then also the justice system should explore available options on custodial sentencing and focus on alternative sentencing. Instead of putting this mother for 1 year, give that mother time to go home, be with the other children, but equally serve in the community. Because if you are selling mandazi, it's because you wanted to improve on the economic status, or maybe just feed your children. The minute you're contained, that means even those other children will be in the streets the following day. And that is practically what is happening. So for us, from where I sit, I know we are not supposed to be releasing these people, but we have a conversation with the Chief Justice. We have already held a meeting, and the response is very positive, that they will fast track the cases of these mothers just to ensure that you're heard and your case is determined in good time.
How many are we talking about so far?
Currently, we have, as at this morning, between 270 and 300 children.
In prison?
In
with
prison.
Their mothers?
With their mothers.
Each with a separate mother?
Each with a separate mother.
Do some mothers have multiple children in the
Yes, sometimes,
prison?
because the child who is supposed to be in prison is the child who is 0 to 4 years.
4 years and under, yeah.
Any child who is above 4 years, you either stay with your relative or you are taken to a children's home. The case of Langata is quite different. Langata is in town, and every focus is in Langata. And what we are encouraging people right now is, can we go to other prisons out there so that we can also be able to help the ones who are down there? And 6 months between now and my 6 months, I will have visited all the prisons in Kenya, the 139 of them, just to have a basic know-how of what is happening in the prisons. Again, we are very ready because we want to show empathy to people who are in prison so that they can also change. We don't want a lot of recidivism, people getting back to crime because of the way they were treated in prison. When they go out there, they are hardened. If they are children from the Boston institutions are juvenile jails. Children who are between the age of 15 to 18 years. You'll find that when they go back home, they will actually tell the children, do you know where I grew up? Unacheza na mimi? You know, that kind of thing. Or people fearing a person who has been in prison so much, such that they feel it is better when I'm in prison
ostracized
than when I'm out here.
You mentioned You mentioned that you have counseling and psychological services in the prisons. Is there a provision for child psychologists? Or that's question number one. And then secondly, historically and in our country, we have always had the perception that prisons are punitive. I think there has been a transition and a move to correctional services, just the same way the police was a force and now it's a service. And so there's people who have been serving in the prison system, like wardens and so on and so forth, who perhaps have not transitioned their mindset. Is there a training that targets these custodians of prisoners that gears them towards providing the service in a humane way? And especially now that we are talking about children in the prison environment, one of the traumatic experiences that they may have is just observing how the warders treat the prisoners, including their mothers. Is there a deliberate effort for the training of the warders?
Thank you. First and foremost, yes, we have psychiatrists, we have psychologists, we have everybody that we may need, and we extend the same to private sector and development partners to give us also skill base that we may not have. And that has really been working really well. The trainings that we do, we have extended to the officers equally, because we have realized until somebody understands why this person is in jail and how to treat that person, if anything, we want to get to the level of the UN standards, whereby human nature is really embraced, and looking at every individual as a person who has an opportunity out there. So to answer your question, yes, our officers are regularly trained, and I want to thank the president as at now, because currently we are having the task force for police reforms and prison reforms. This is also going to be a milestone on the recommendations that will come out, because we may not do things the same way we have done time and time again. We may not realize the difference. For instance, from our point of view, we've been able to ensure that we have conversations on them, the police, the officers' welfare, to ensure that they are promoted on merit, because that is one of the issues that can make someone be very angry and subject you. Yes, you pass on the anger to the prisoner or to the person next to you. So promotions on merit, ensure they have housing. The government is working very hard to have the low-cost housing, and this is going to include prison officers. Again, it is only, we have said, it's only when you are empathetic about somebody that people's behavior and mannerism change. On the children issues, you see, a child of 6 months, what psychological issue are you going to deal with?
I think what happens,
that is more of behavioral and mannerism.
I think what happens in those instances is that you have psychologists who you're not talking with the child, but you're also observing. Even at 6 months, a child has a personality, has behavior that could actually change based on the trauma that they experience.
Yes, and that's why I said more of what we could deal with that child is on mannerism and behavior. It may not be really written or spoken, but just training her on different types of ways. But remember, this child is still living with the mother inside the prison. So you may be picking up on one bit, trying to change it, and retaining the same on the other side. And that is why we are saying, can this child go home with the mother? If it's a petty offense, if it's something that can be contained, stay at home, grow like any other normal child. A child who has aunties, friends, mothers, and play with other children. Go to a normal school, in just a normal environment. And that can happen.
And in instances where the mother has committed a hardcore crime, of course they can't go home, are there then plans to recreate a conducive environment in the prison for the children?
Yes, we have already commenced that, and this is a continuous activity that always is going on. One, we have created children's centers, playgrounds, where the children can stay a whole day, maybe play with the others, and also if the mother is breastfeeding, they are able to come and breastfeed that child. So really, even currently, we are not mistreating these children per se. We are giving them the very best that we can be able to do. The only thing we cannot do is give the mother freedom. That is not in our mandate. So we have to contain this mother until and when her judgment will be made and she will be allowed to go home. We have also worked very hard, and this is in extension to what we are also doing to the prisoners. One prisoner, one mattress, one bed. Same case to the children. If that is going to be achieved, then you can be sure we are extending the warmth to these people. Simply to ensure that they feel we love you. We don't want you to be in prison. We want you to come back home, reintegrate with members of the society to be a better person. We have contained a lot of young people who can contribute to the community and to the economy of this country in a very good way, in a very great way, and every way possible. So if they have petty offenses, I am sure that we can have alternative ways of doing it instead of containing them.
Let's take a break on that note. It's 27 minutes to 8 o'clock. Our guest this morning is the Principal Secretary for Correctional Services. This is for Prisons and Probation Services. Her name is Mary Muroki. She's been in office for 2 months. She's already been busy. She's visited a number of prisons. She says within the next 4 months, she'll have visited all 130. Within the next 6 from now. Hey. You'll have visited all the 139 prison services in the country. Prison facilities in the country. We are talking particularly this morning about children who are in jail, not because they have committed an offense or that they've been sentenced by any judicial officer, but because their mothers are in jail. And what's happening to those children, especially those ones who are below the age of 4
years,
who are there with their mothers. They haven't committed any sin. What should happen to them? As we go there, let me remind you about texting the word Vipingo to 22365. That's SMS the word Vipingo to 22365 to learn about the Vipingo development that's taking place in Vipingo, Kilifi County. You know Vipingo. Yes. The Vipingo development, 3,000 acres or so. And it's going to be a big mixed-use facility. There's going to be industrial, commercial, residential. Residential is happening. 500 houses already done and handed over to their owners. They're doing now phase 2. They're called Palm Ridge Phase 2. Palm Ridge Phase 2 comprises studio apartments, 1-bedroom apartment, and 1-bedroom loft apartment. 1-bedroom loft means you can the bedroom iko juu. Iko chini. Iko loft. You live loftily. And then you have 2-bedroom apartments and 3-bedroom apartments. All Vipingo are saying is if you actually do a 10% down payment for whichever you want to choose from, studio apartments beginning with 1.98 million shillings. So 198,000 bob down payment. The rest you can pay in installments. Just talk to them. SMS the word Vipingo to 22365, or you can call 0740 400 215. That's 0740 400 215. As we take the break, Ndu also has some good news about this February.
February, in a give na Showmax, 300 shillings, imagine. You then have access to movies. Madam Pierce, do you watch movies? Series, documentaries, news, live sports, 300 bob. Wow. And if you spend 300 shillings, they give you another month. So you can imagine February, March, watching all this on 300 bob. I mean,
so their TVs in prison.
Deal.
You can subscribe for the prisons.
Yes, we have TVs in prison.
But don't show them. CI.
Or prison break. Or
prison break. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The man who looks at a beautiful girl and doesn't talk to her will end up serving lunch at her wedding.
Aye, City, do like that.
My father has killed a mouse. Will he fail to kill a man?
Ameua panya.
Small mammal, big mammal.
Mtu atamshinda. What are they saying?
Conditions in Nairobi this morning at 17, highs of 28 and lows of 15 today. We'll see lows of 13 in a sunny Nakuru at 14, going to highs of 30. 28 will be the high in a sunny Nyeri at 12, and it's 11 and sunny in Eldoret, going to highs of 27. A cloudy morning in Mombasa at 27, highs of 32, and we'll see highs of 31 in a mostly cloudy Malindi at 27. Looking out into Kisumu, it's sunny at 21, highs of 30 and lows of 19, and we'll see highs of 33 in Kakamega today, where it's sunny at 21. 24 and cloudy in Kampala, highs of 27, and thunderstorms are rocking Dar es Salaam skies at 25, highs of 32. And it's 17 and cloudy in Johannesburg with highs of 24. We'll see lows of 16. Partly cloudy conditions in Lagos at 26, highs of 34, and highs of 33 in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 23.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Unright. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Uhuru Highway is crazy. In and outbound traffic is doing the thing this morning, getting you out past the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, and then you're trying to get into the city. Let's look at what's coming in from the northern part of the city, the Thika Superhighway, and then also Kiambu Road, Limuru Road, all a mess today. Seems to be an organized one, though. Folks are moving very slowly into the city, but they're moving. On James Gishuru, heavy crossing over to Wayaki Way, and that's all from this traffic that's coming off Ngong Road, Naivasha Road, Gitanga Road. So that is quite something. Wayaki Way, all the way from Kangemi, that started early. We saw that going out into the city and past the Red Hill Link Road. And then, of course, they're going to spill over to Kitisuru. It's coming in from Ruaka, Limuru Road past the village market. That's all happening there this morning. We are in traffic hour proper now, folks. Let's know what's going on where you are. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Are you ready? Okay. Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Conversation continues with Mary Muroki, the Principal Secretary for Correctional Services. We're focusing our conversation this morning on children. There are about 300 children at any given time who are in our prisons, who are either newborns or 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year olds who are in prison with their mothers. And it's the mothers who've committed an offense, who've been sentenced to prison, but the children have to follow them. And of course, we've been talking about this and wondering, so what's the plight of these children? PS, you're saying you've had a conversation with the Judiciary. And the push here is for the Judiciary to consider non-custodial sentencing for such kind of mothers, especially the petty offenders. From the statistics that you have so far, those that have children with them in prison, how many qualify for the petty offense category?
The numbers keep changing because even last night and this morning, there are still mothers who have been put in prison.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the wrong statistics if
on average,
if I give it to you right now. So what I would say is within the 300, probably 3/4 of them are on petty offences.
Right.
And that's really a very high number.
majority.
It's the majority.
And petty offence, we are talking about what length of sentencing?
You see, the length of sentences is not equivalent to the
weight of the offence.
To the weight of the offence sometimes. It goes by the decision of the judge,
right,
and the court. Probably you might see somebody, and I give an example of a mother loitering at night. You know, she may be picked up and maybe called a prostitute and taken in. You know, a mother who has picked some 300 shillings from your pouch, that is stealing, and you're taken in maybe for 1 year. Somebody else who has come and cut your banana in the farm, you see, and you're taken in for 2 years, depending on how you're able to also defend yourself. Because that is also another issue in prison, that most of these people do not have representation, a legal representation. And also when they are given bail, they're not able to pay as little as 2,000 shillings. And that is why they are in prison. You're given a bail of 2,000 shillings and you cannot raise it at a go, and you have to spend 3 months, 6 months. So the number is high, and we so believe that by probably just working as one, that will really help us to reduce. And we are already working as one.
So because that's the thing, and because here just based on what you've said, is that so it's correctional. We don't want anybody to be, in prison. We pray not to have that.
We pray.
But for me, then, it looks as though the system then is counterintuitive, because here we are dealing with the one famous case of a year ago was a woman who had a trash bag. And I think it's important to talk about these things. A woman had a trash bag. She dumped it at a garbage dump, not in the middle of anywhere. Yes. She dumped it at a garbage dump, was arrested and fined 100,000 shillings. This woman who, given the sell tomato outside of the road, so how much is she making in a day? Charged 100,000 shillings. Is in prison today because obviously she couldn't make the bail. This is not a criminal. So isn't it counterintuitive? We send her to jail to what's the word?
Correct her.
To correct her.
Yes.
But she comes out a frustrated Kenyan.
Yes.
Whereas it could be something that, okay, fine, sweep the chief's camp for a day, man, and then, okay, don't litter again tomorrow. But then she goes to jail with her child, who, by the way, is going to come out and maybe go to a prison school, who's going to come out and is already going to be disadvantaged. Shouldn't we be working on the system rather than taking care of them while they're in there?
We are at a better place right now, as I am speaking, because we are holding seminars, conjoined seminars with the Judiciary and Correctional Services. The judges and the probation officers are being trained across the country so that we can speak in one voice. We can speak, we can be in sync and be able to look at things in a different manner. The way it has been before is we focus more on the crime other than other aspects that might bring even bigger issues, like having a child with you, having other children out there and who are not with you, and who are likely to suffer more on a crime that you yourself have committed. So the Judiciary and Correctional Services Department officers are working hand in hand, holding meetings together, ensuring that they're having a conversation. Because even when we speak about probation reports that are taken to court, there's consideration on what is the issue on the ground vis-a-vis what is at hand in prison. So this is something that's
ongoing. PS, I've
ongoing.
got to express my frustration on this. Come on, listen. We're talking about a child who is a year, 2 years, 0 years old. Okay, this is not something that should be having conversations over so long. The last time here we hosted the Clean Start lady. What's her name?
Clean Start, Teresa
Njoroge, who's been pushing and campaigning about this for a long time. We have had people who've been pushing this, the ICJ, Kenya, and others have been talking about petty offences and especially the plight of these children, the vulnerable children, and what we are doing to the society. The judiciary is still having conversation and teamwork, and all they need to do is have a decision on this is how we're going to be handling these matters. When a woman is brought before us, we look the nature of offense. We ask, what's a family status? Okay, do you have a small baby? Then we make a decision based on that. This is not happening.
And that is already happening.
Conversation.
That is already happening.
Okay, what is
that? That
happening?
is already happening, and that is why I'm talking about children getting out of prison. I wouldn't be so confident if I do not have information on what is happening with the judiciary and how they are also helping us to decongest our prisons. Because that is very particular, that when a child goes to court, ask them, when a mother goes to court, ask her, do you have a child? Can you bring that child here? Do you have other children at home? So that has already started happening. And that is why I'm keeping on saying I'm happy with the judiciary.
Are we saying that there are no new children who are below 4 who are going to prison with a mother who's committed a petty offense?
We are not saying that there may not be new children who are going to court, depending on the nature of the crime. However, the ones that are already there, the process is ongoing, simply to ensure that the cases are fast-tracked, that we do not have piles up. When I came in 2 months ago, I think we had 400 children. Right now, we are talking about 300. So the number is going down gradually. It's not a one-day affair that we will wake up one day and say, let's push these people out. You're the ones who are going to lynch these women when they come out there.
You sit.
So are you
a member of the Clemency Committee?
Sorry, the Power of Mercy?
Yes.
We are members as correctional services.
As correctional services.
And to bring you to speed, the Power of Mercy, as we are talking, is being done online. And remember, you don't also just put the name and then the president wakes up and says, okay, let her go home. It's not possible. Remember, this is somebody who hurt you, okay? You as a person. Yeah. So you're still feeling very depressed about it, and you're saying, let this woman just rot in jail, because that is the nature of that is the nature of human beings. That's true. When somebody hurts you, you must punish them, and in our society we believe that punishment is by having that person in prison. So as we are working on them getting out, we must also work on the society on the other end. I must bring you on the table for reconciliation. Sure. So it's not a one-day affair.
I agree.
And we must, as Kenyans, we must be patient with the process.
I am willing to be patient with the process, Madam.
The process.
Yes. And I trust the process and everything. With this power of mercy, where every year there are people who are freed through the power of mercy by the president, and with a new lingo in government for the last couple of years, RRI. Is there an RRI from the State Department for Correctional Services to look at these 300 children, not the mothers, the 300 children, and see how we can make sure that these 300 children go home? You already know the nature of offense that has been committed. The people who sit in this Power of Mercy committee can look and see the nature of offense committed, the behavior of the mother in prison, the kind of child that they have in prison, and say RRI is going to focus. This year, the president is going to release 250 of these 300 children. Let them go home.
One of the things that I must tell you, and which the judiciary is also part of, is the judges are already doing their work. Okay. And the meetings of this committee are becoming more and more. We are not waiting for 2-3 years so that the committee can meet. In fact, we and the committee have already met and put down some of the guidelines that we must follow to ensure that we are pushing and the rapid response some of the things that, this is a security issue, so I may not really talk about it.
I'm looking at it from a
openly.
humanitarian side. A child.
Yes, from a humanitarian side, yes. And I think I've repeated many times. Yeah. It's because if I start discussing some of these issues, when I go back, trust you me, I will have some letters on the table
saying
asking,
you've talked too much.
So I
guess
think
I'm just looking for a commitment that you've been. Look, PS, we invited you here because we have seen in the last the last 2 months that you've been in office, you have visited several prisons and you have raised the issue of children.
Yes.
In the last 2 months, you have had several meetings with the Chief Justice raising this issue of children.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what is the commitment to make sure that these 300 children go home?
The commitment is to ensure that we are working together with the judiciary. We are giving the right information to the judiciary. From any station, we have information on who we have contained. And every day, we have the numbers of the inmates who are there with the children. We are forwarding the information every other time to the judiciary to ensure that action is taken care of. Yes.
What... obviously, this is a collaboration between your office and the judiciary. It's clear. But however, we know that it is under order of the judiciary that these persons are incarcerated with their children. So they already have the knowledge. They know who is there because it is by their order that they are there. And so for me, that's why I'm sticking on the process. The process that puts these people in prison in the first place, for me, is what would need a lot more attention. Because if we say, okay, fine, looking for the commitment of releasing these children, what happens when they're released? And you still have the same system that is going to arrest the mother with her young child and put them back, and in another 6 months you have another 300 children. So for me, it is at the point whereby they're being incarcerated at the first place. Can that process then be streamlined and refined to say, or can they even, how closely can you work with the judiciary in this further collaboration to say, guys, how about we look at it like this?
Remember,
why are we insisting on incarceration for these women in the first place?
Yes.
If we are saying that of the 300 children, I mean, we have the numbers, 87% as a general are petty offenders.
Remember, we already have gone one step because we already have a child care policy that is already launched. For us, it's to implement. And in the part of implementation, it would have been bad if we have mothers even having children who are 12 years in prison. It was narrowed down to 0 to 4 years. That's a step. And let's give credit where it's due. So of importance
India,
right
still
now.
15 years.
Right, you see? So of importance right now is implementation of the child care policy, which is already in place, and ensuring that we keep improving on the same, so that we don't keep going back to the same problems that we have had before.
What would that entail? Is it higher budgetary allocation? Is it building capacity? What would it entail?
Remember, at the end of the day, we don't even want a single person in prison. So decongesting the prison is a priority. And in decongestion, sometimes it doesn't mean that you have to get a bigger budget so that you can keep moving people. Probably skills, more skills to our officers, more skills to also the prisoners, so that they understand why they are in prison. And when they go out there, they are able to reintegrate properly. And if you look at what we are doing to the mothers right now, is to ensure that they are kept busy. You don't just keep them in prison. At the end of the day, they have an activity that is occupying their mind. If you just sit in one area for a whole day, sometimes your mind, it really gets distorted. You think so many things which are good, sometimes bad. But if you engage somebody with an activity, embroidery, clay work, drawing, even reading, some have become lawyers in prison. We have people who have gotten out of prison and come back to represent their colleagues. So it's it's upon us to keep instilling skills, discipline, so that when they go out there, they are able to really reintegrate with everybody else.
I find myself wondering, mothers are predominantly the caregivers of especially young babies in our society. What about the fathers who have young children and are taking care of those children by themselves, and then they find themselves incarcerated? Are there considerations made, or does it, or it never even crosses a judge's mind to ask if this person has young children or has a child?
A sole parent.
That's really what has been there. In the past, we focused more on you have committed a crime. Irrespective of anything else, let's put you in. There's the child care policy right now that probably allows you to go with that child in prison. At least you can have a bond, with that child. Before you would be put in, and we don't care whether you have, forget about anything else out here. And if that has already happened, it is only improving on the same, getting more skilled, having more conversations, communicating to each other, collaborating, having moving decisions from the table into action.
Yeah.
And that's what I am talking about. That as at now, correctional services is never the same again. We are not going to be a talk department. It's about moving the decisions that you have already put on paper and put them into practice. If we mean reintegrating people, decongesting prison, we are looking at those who are already there. What do we do with them? What do we do to prevent people from coming to prison? It's a multi-agency approach, including the private sector, yourselves, the media. Communication is one of the key things. That some of these people who have committed petty offenses, the issue can be sorted to the lowest level of
at community level
of the community. We have Nyumba Kumi, we have village elders, we have our families. Can we handle the issues there? The person you have put in prison is more bitter with you than someone you sat down and said, okay, I have your money, I'm going to pay it back. But when you push that person in prison, and I'll give an example, a girl in one of the prisons that I met, 20 years of age, she's a house help. She broke a vase. And she was the lady who she worked for, put her in prison, reported the case, and of course you broke the vase. You can't pay it because you've not been paid. You can't pay bail. I'm still holding your money. Look at that scenario.
Yeah.
But it is still
it's a community issue.
Yes.
I think even the clarion call here is
yes.
for all of us to start viewing punishment differently.
Absolutely. So when I talk about even the children, let's go back. Let's not ask what the government can do. Let's ask ourselves, what can we do first? When that policeman who will pick you in the street must be part of this.
Yeah.
That person who is watching must be part of it. You who has reported the case, you must think twice.
Yeah.
Why should I put my neighbor in, push my neighbor into custody when we can sit down and have a conversation?
Yes.
And that is one of the ways we are using to ensure that we decongest our prisons. Let us not have many other people coming in, and let us remove the ones who are already there, so that they can come and be part of the growing of the economy.
It's about restoration, not retribution.
Mary Muroki is the Principal Secretary for the State Department for Correctional Services. She's been our guest. We've had a good one. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here for more conversations. It's 8 a.m. Good morning.
Thank you.
Aseto is just in, and former Interior CS lawyer Dunstan Omari is expected at the Milimani Court at 9 a.m. That is in the next 1 hour to seek anticipatory bail for Matiangi of impending arrest. It will be remembered that several police officers surrounded Matiangi's home in Karen. The reason for them surrounding the home is not yet known, but we are following up on these developing story. We'll be bringing you the very latest in our subsequent news bulletin. Now, President William Ruto is set to host his Eritrean counterpart, President Isaias Afwerki, for a 2-day official visit to Kenya. In a statement to Newsroom, State House spokesperson Hussein Mohammed said President Ruto and President Afwerki will hold bilateral talks at State House in Nairobi today. Talks between the two leaders will also center around education, tourism, security, and the blue economy. Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni has played down the significance of a meeting held by President William Ruto and a section of Jubilee MPs. The President hosted the lawmakers at State House, Nairobi, a day after he convened a similar meeting with some ODM legislators. Kioni further revealed that rebel MPs would be disciplined for meeting President William Ruto without the blessings of the party.
And I want to tell the members of parliament who are going to State House, both in ODM, in Jubilee and in White, you're wasting your time. You are elected to represent the views of people on the floor of the House. Why do you want to go behind closed curtains to address that? You are given an open forum with live coverage so that we can see you articulating them. Not behind curtains. Why do you want to cross the people? Lazima uwe unatuza pahali. Lazima uwe umepata kitu. There must be some tokens.
This comes as Ruto said the Jubilee MPs move to work with him makes them, and I quote, our members whom we'll treat as such. A nominated MP John Mbadi has confirmed that he'll resign from his position as a chairman of ODM party. In an exclusive interview with the Standard, Mbadi said he's feeling disrespected by a section of key leaders in ODM and that his stay at the helm of the party leadership is no longer tenable. The legislator did not reveal when exactly he'll tender his resignation, but said that his decision to quit is final. Some ODM members have accused the former Suba and South MP of abandoning party leader Raila Odinga and failure to champion the party's push in opposing President William Ruto's decisions. Now, members of the County Public Accounts and Investments Committee have cautioned governors against overestimating their own source revenue collection due to perennial failure to meet set targets. Nyandarua Senator John Methu said overestimation is what is leading to high pending bills at the counties. His sentiments were backed by Busia and Homa Bay counterparts Okiya Mtata and Moses Kajwang. And the East African Court of Justice has constituted a 5-judge bench to hear an appeal for former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko on the Supreme Court ruling against him. The hearing will take place on the 27th of next month. Sonko filed the appeal at the East African Court of Justice in July last year to challenge the decision by the Supreme Court upholding his impeachment. Sonko, through his lawyer Kenneth Wanyanga and Dunstan Omari, stated that he wasn't given a chance to be heard as required by law. He stated that the highest court in the land did not consider that his impeachment appeal wasn't responded to. And Jackton Odhiambo has been charged with the murder of LGBTQ activist and fashion model Edwin Kipruto. Elias Chiloba denied bond pending a pre-trial report. Odhiambo, the key suspect in the murder of the former University of Eldoret student, was arraigned before Justice Ruben Nyakundi, the High Court in Eldoret, after mental assessment was ordered on him before he could be charged with the murder. And civil society organizations now want the government to establish accountability mechanisms for medical practitioners and facilities in cases of maternal deaths resulting from medical negligence. An alliance of 18 CSOs challenged the government to address the root cause of medical negligence and put an end to preventable maternal deaths and injuries. The CSOs argued that maternal injuries due to medical negligence are at an all-time high in the country, hence the need to implement policies to address the situation. They pointed out that women from low economic backgrounds are the most affected, saying every Kenyan has a right to healthcare. And at least 18 people in southeastern Niger have died of meningitis in the past 3 months. This is according to WHO, warning that the outbreak could spread to other countries. Between November 1st and January 27th, 559 cases of bacterial disease were reported in Niger's Zinda region, including 111 that were confirmed in a laboratory to be meningitis. During the same period a year earlier, 231 cases were reported. The Sahel nation is located in Africa's so-called meningitis belt, experiencing seasonal outbreaks every year. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
All right, a few minutes after 8 o'clock, and traffic is now high fever in most parts of the city. We're looking at it coming off a Thika Superhighway, quite heavy. We're also looking at it coming off of Limuru Road and other parts of the city, heavy as well, bumper to bumper in quite a number of areas. On Kiambu Road, heavy as well. Not too bad on the Thika Superhighway today. Just that area coming past the Allsops Junction and then heading out towards the city is heavy. Okay, we're in traffic hour. That we know. Langata Road, also pretty busy. Getting on Uhuru Highway into the city as well. Coming off Mombasa Road around Imaradaima at the Drift, some traffic there. But the Southern Bypass, again, is raising a hand and saying, I'm up for service today. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, talk to us there. Let's keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation.
8. This is the third of Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, live on SpiceFM, KTN Home, and also live online on YouTube and Facebook. It's Eric Latif, Ndu Oko. C.T. Muga is away this week. We have a guest host today, Daisy Maritime Miner, who's with us in the studio throughout the show. And we have a new guest joining us for the next conversation. Eric Kennedy is the Group Corporate Relations Director at EABL. He's our guest now. I invite him the way we invite our guests, as taught by CT, with the day's proverb. The proverb is from Malawi. If you're going to bathe, get thoroughly wet. If you're going to bathe, get thoroughly wet. Eric, good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you for having me.
That's a hot seat of the Situation Room. How does it feel? Comfortable?
Yeah, it's very comfortable.
Very good. This proverb is from Malawi. What's your interpretation of it? If you're going to bathe, get thoroughly wet.
The way I understand it, or how I would interpret it is, if you're going to do something, you better do it very well.
That's what Daisy you were saying, go for the tens, go for the hundreds.
Spot on.
Yeah? If you're going to do something, give it your all. Give it your, get thoroughly wet.
That is an African proverb against French baths, sponge baths.
Bird bath. Passports.
Passports.
Get wet.
Completely. Uingia kwa mtu ingia. All the way in. So Eric, we want to have a conversation about excise stamps. And it's a conversation that every year when there's budget, one of the things that we look at is, all right, syntax. And then we look at, so we are going to pay a bit more. I mean, the government is going to collect a bit more revenue through this luxury items. And alcohol is considered one of those luxury items. And EABL is primarily in the business of alcohol, right?
Yes.
Now, there's a lot to understand, but let's just first of all begin by understanding the nature of business that the alcoholic drinks business is. Tell us in numbers the consumption trends, the business case for it, and how much you've been paying to the tax collector in taxes.
Okay, thank you. I think I'll probably start with the performance. And being a listed company, I think you must have seen us release our results about 2 weeks back. And one of the things that we noticed from our half-year results is that the consumption of beer dropped by 13%. Spirits dropped by 1%, which obviously is not a good trend for us. And I must say that our industry has been suffering from the effects of COVID. If you remember, during COVID, the restrictions forced us to close because some of the bars in most of the major cities were closed. There were restrictions in terms of hours of opening as well. So we have really been suffering the last 3 years since COVID, and we've not fully recovered. Coupled with that, we've had excise increases every year, and in the last 14 months, we've actually had 3 excise increases.
In the last 14 months?
14 months. That's from October 2021 to October 2022, which has impacted us in a very big way. So beer, for example, we've had about 23% increase on excise, and spirits about 34% increase on excise. So if you look at that, and those excise increases are always passed on to the consumer. This is a consumer who is also suffering from the macroeconomic effects of inflation. So affordability has become a real challenge, and we're seeing that with our consumers who are moving to illicit. So we think that the government is shooting themselves in the foot by constantly increasing taxes, and now this new increase, proposed increase on excise stamps, is just going to make that situation even worse. So what we ask the government to do is to take a look back and say, look, we want the industry to grow, because for the industry to grow, the revenues are going to grow. In terms of tax payments to government, they're also not improving. So whereas they're increasing aggressively the tax rates, the revenues are not going up. And we've seen that being flat since 2015. So for beer, for example, and we're the biggest player in beer, we have been paying between 20 and 21 billion shillings per year.
And this is on excise alone?
On excise alone. So with volumes going down, you'd expect that government is also hurting. So one of the things we're asking government is, you need to sit back and think about the tax policy on alcohol specifically, because if you don't do that, you're not going to grow the sector. And the other multiplier effect about our industry is that we have farmers. And I must say, we are very proud that we are the only company that actually sources local grain, barley and sorghum. And if our volumes are going down, it means also our demand for the grain is going down. So our farmers are not getting any additional income from that. We have been forced in the last 12 months to increase our prices, both on barley and sorghum. Barley by about 20%, sorghum by about 36%. This is because we also want to cushion that farmer, because their inputs have gone up. So if you continue paying them the same amount we were paying them 2 years ago, obviously they're not making any money and will not be able to source. So we've also seen an increase in our inflation on costs and inputs, and you're also suffering like any other industry, because drought is also forcing us to try and get into more areas, because we cannot get the same yields that we were getting previously. So I think it's an opportunity for us to sit with government and take a look back and say, how do we grow together? Because it has to be mutual.
Sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the government is shooting itself in the foot by increasing these taxes, increasing this excise. How? How exactly?
So, like I've explained, the consumer is already suffering. So the minute you take excise into levels where the consumer cannot be able to afford legitimate product, they are going to go for illicits. These illicits don't pay tax at all. So you're not benefiting at all. So, and like I've said, in the last 5 years, you've seen excise collections from beer specifically being flat. So whereas we have seen annual increases based on inflation, then I've told you about the last 2 years, we've seen excise going up by 24% on beer and 34% on spirits. The volumes are also declining. So whereas you'd expect, government is expecting an increase. And you know, the logic here is our products are inelastic, so they will never suffer because consumers will continue consuming. But the truth is, the consumer is consuming cheaper or illicit products. They are moving off from the formal sector to the informal sector, which government has no control over. So, and that's the point I was making about shooting themselves in the foot.
Yeah. Eric, were you expecting, did this come as a surprise, the intention to increase the excise stamp duty? Because I suppose you were anticipating, because it was in the news that it was probably going to be halved, actually.
Yeah.
What is the worst case scenario given the surprise for you as a company?
So the worst case scenario would be to keep the rates as they are. But the best case scenario, because the information we have and the arrangement that KRA has with the current supplier was that because now the system is being handed over to KRA fully, and it's being fully paid for by taxpayers, by the way, we would expect the cost to go down. First of all, if you look at the scale of the products in Kenya that are under this regime, it's quite massive. So you'd expect, because of the economies of scale, then the cost should be going down. The other thing you look at is that across East Africa, we have the same supplier providing the same solution to other governments in East Africa. It's only Kenya where you find the band of products is quite huge. But the cost in those other countries, Uganda and Tanzania, is actually even lower than what we have currently. So you'd expect that because we have been on it for 7 years, the cost should be going down. The other thing to look at is, for example, on beer, we don't even have a paper stamp. It's actually a laser inkjet that is printed on the bottle top. What cost is going up?
Yeah.
It's ink. Why is it going up double? So they have not really explained to us how they have come up with this cost, so the justification of this cost. Because we deal with paper. We put labels on bottles. We know the cost of paper globally, how the prices have gone up. It cannot be double. So again, we are saying justify it to us, because you're business people. Make us see the logic, and we probably work with you. But right now, it's not clear.
So there's a, on the Business Daily, on Monday, this past Monday, there's a story that says that the explanation behind this could be a 4.5 billion debt owed to the Swiss contractor by the KEMSA. And this debt, the repayment of this debt, is now what is being cascaded down to you as manufacturers and then eventually to us as consumers. Is this the case? Is this...
It's actually quite a weird explanation, because you got into a contract and agreed on a price. How the debt arises then is mysterious to us as players.
It's actually, in fact, reading this article, you would think that it is an inadvertent admission, because that is not something that a government would say, that it's this debt that we got into and now you're paying for it. But also what I was asking in my previous question is, what is the worst case scenario for you as a company? Not in terms of what is the worst case scenario that it is increased. What is the worst case scenario in terms of the effect of the increase?
So currently we are spending about 1 billion shillings on these tax stamps per year. So when you look at the cost that is now being proposed, it's going to double. So we are saying we are going to have to pay an additional 1 billion shillings.
Yeah.
Obviously, we cannot absorb that cost. We'd have to pass it on to the consumer. And the impact to the consumer, we're talking about between 5 and 10 shillings per bottle. Because this is a cost that, first of all, you have to pay VAT on that cost. It's not deductible. So you have to pass that cost on to the consumer. So we are saying that last year we took prices up in July. We took prices in October. We have to take prices again now.
So you're increasingly looking at a consumer who is likely to not be able to afford your product at all.
Yes.
Very soon.
Very soon, and the big issue here is that we are saying about illicit in Kenya is about 50%. So you're just going to make a bad situation even worse. Yeah.
Explain this illicit.
So illicit comes in probably 3 different forms, I'd call it. So there is your local brew, which is your Changa, Busa, Moratina, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you have product which is disguised as genuine and formal. It's in a bottle. It has a label. It has a KEMSA mark.
Counterfeit.
But I'm not even talking about counterfeit yet. But it's not paying duty. So you call it a duty not paid product. You as a consumer will not know, because when you find it on the shelf and it's being offered at a price, you'll buy. So you find that a lot of these products, actually, especially in the spirits category, where products being sold between 100 and 150 shillings per the 250 ml. If you look at some of these products, the tax on that product alone is about 80 shillings. So you cannot tell me how someone is making money
when you're selling it at 100
bob. So there's something funny you're doing. So that's the second issue of illicit. The third one is counterfeit, where you find a lot of the fast-moving brands. There are a lot of local people manufacturing, collecting bottles and packaging them and selling them as genuine, but they are basically counterfeit and an infringement of the IP rights of the.
So somebody takes somebody else's bottle.
Yes.
And then they put their own concoction or whatever, and they sell it off us, that
at
brand.
The same price.
Yes.
At the same price as the original brand.
Yes. So they are riding on your marketing, because you've probably done a lot of marketing of the brand, but the consumer will never know. Yeah.
This duty not paid.
Yeah.
How does it thrive in a heavily regulated industry and government and country such as ours.
And maybe that's the problem. You're so regulated that the incentive to do these funny things is quite high. And it starts from the raw material, ethanol. So a lot of ethanol comes from southern Africa. So whether it's Tanzania, whether it's South Africa, all the way down, because it's a byproduct of the sugar industry. So a lot of this is Magolin. And why the incentive is high is because duty on ethanol is also 100%. So if I buy ethanol from Tanzania, let's say for $1 million shillings, the duty will be double.
$1 billion.
It's $1 million.
$1 million.
So if I evade duty in the raw material, I've already halved my costs.
Yeah.
And then I make a product which will not be reported or recorded by KRA because I'm doing it either behind my house or even if it's in a plant, it's not recorded. And that's where the challenges that come with that duty not paid because it's going to be sold in the market and it's evident. If you go to most urban centers, once you pay the shops, they'll tell you we have number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is a genuine product. And the other issue is that these stamps are heavily counterfeited. So you find a product has a tax stamp, but that tax stamp is not genuine. And the only person who can tell you whether it's genuine or not is KRA. They don't have enough people in every wine and spirit shop to tell you whether it's genuine or not.
But for you to be able, we see in terms of the first category, you talked about the illicit brew, the local brews. We see chiefs and headmen doing the local raids all the time. And those people who are brewing changa and busa in their backyards are being arrested regularly. We don't see very many raids into these places where they are distilling ethanol and putting it in properly packaged bottles and even counterfeiting the stamps and taking them to the market. That's a properly organized structure where there's manufacturing, there's distribution, an entire distribution network, and then it ends up in the same bar.
Yeah, it's organized crime, and obviously it involves a lot of players in enforcement. And the major issue we have in Kenya actually is enforcement, because the truck, by the time it leaves the border, Namanga, and comes all the way, it's being escorted. It passes so many roadblocks. But again, they're also quite ingenious. Some of these guys, you find the truck with ethanol probably is also they've put onions or other things, so it's disguised in many ways. But I think there is a way that government, if they put resources behind that enforcement, that they'd be able to net some of these guys.
So the counterfeit people have a budget for protection while the poor guys making illicit brew do not, and so so they're vulnerable to enforcement.
And the other end of the spectrum, the genuine guys who are making a genuine product, who are publicly listed, are being slapped with a 23% increase.
There's really no incentive for an upcoming future industrialist or a manufacturer, a Kenyan one, because you're slapped, as Eric is saying, from every direction. You have power costs that are high, you have inflation, you have forex shortage and that kind of thing. And then on top of it, excise stamps and duties. I think it was last month when the president had a meeting with the Manufacturers Association, and they were talking about increasing manufacturers' contribution to GDP from, I think right now it's about 7%
to 20%.
To 20%. But all these things are working at cross purposes with that intention.
Definitely.
It's not something that we're going to realize.
And you probably, and I'll give you an example, and to just paint a picture of how stringent or we are discouraged as investors in this country. So I'll give you a bottle of Tusker, for example. The recommended retail selling price is 190. A similar product in Uganda and Tanzania is probably selling at 100. So if you go
equivalent of 100.
Equivalent of 100 shillings. If you go to most of our border towns, people would rather cross over to the other and drink a beer on the other side and walk back. And just to enumerate to you how skewed this is. So out of that 107 shillings is actually tax. Excise, VAT, and what we pay as corporation tax.
Out of what now?
Out of the 190.
Out of the 190.
Yes.
In the Tusker.
107 is government. So we have another 25 shillings, which is the trade margins we give to our distributors and to the retail. Then we are left with 57 shillings. This 57 shillings is what KBL is going to pay the farmer for the grain.
Your employees?
Our employees, my salary comes out of that. our distribution, because remember, we distribute all the products to all our distributors across the country, all our overhead costs, all our selling and advertising expenses, the dividends we are paying to the shareholders, and any financing costs that we have borrowed from the banks. So the biggest shareholder in our business is actually
the government.
Wow.
They should actually be sitting in our strategy sessions and asking us, how do we grow your business?
Right.
And now, given this 57 shillings that you're splitting, how many employees do you have?
So we have about 1,200 employees direct, but then we have
The
others
distributors,
through.
yeah.
So distributors are not directly under us, so they're not our employees, but
they make money.
But yeah, so we have to give them the margin because they have to be able to distribute us.
So that's what is actually jeopardized, and that's why I was asking about the worst case scenario is if we can no longer afford your beer or your products, then you start going down that route.
Of course, yeah, because if you look at even the impact of cost inflation on our sector, on labels, glass, the packaging material that we use, it's gone up quite significantly. And we have to think really hard about how to cut costs in our business. So a lot of that work on productivity, because we don't want people to lose jobs. We actually made a conscious decision during COVID not to let anyone go, despite the fact that our production was half, even sometimes in the earlier stages. It was even, there are days we could go, we were producing only 2 days a week, but we never let anyone go. So we've really suffered and struggled. And it's not just our industry, but the hospitality industry at large. And you see progressive economies. I was just reading something about 2 weeks ago. Dubai removed all taxes on alcohol. They removed all licensing on alcohol. And you think they'd be more stringent. But because they want to attract tourism, they realize that's actually a hook. Because they want to promote tourism, they want people to come in and be able to afford alcohol. So the UK, they have not increased taxes in the last 2 years because they realized the impact of COVID on these industries was quite significant. Tanzania, for 5 years, they have never touched their taxes. And you can see the taxes are growing every year. Uganda, the last 4 years. So I think there's a big conversation need to be had about the tax policy in Kenya, and not only on our industry. If you look across, and I'm sure, and you're seeing a lot of people complaining about high taxation. And I think that's what government needs to sit with industry and the private businesses and say, what is the most optimal way to tax our citizens so that the economy can grow?
Sure, of course, with the understanding that government's job is to create a conducive environment within which, its people can thrive and businesses can also flourish. Now, sitting in the industry, what would be the suggestion? I mean, you've given examples of other countries. How would it be? Because you've practiced in an environment, obviously, that is not conducive. So what are the suggestions for then creating that environment then, which is all within reason, of course?
Yeah, so I think, first of all, on excise, I think we have the inflation adjustment is not working. And that's the trend that we have been seeing in the last 5 years. We actually started losing out in 2015 when we increased beer by 43% in 1 year. So since then, we've just seen the trend of tax revenue being poor. So volumes are going down, and then the tax revenues have been flat. So these excise increases every year are not working. So we are proposing already during these budget proposals that they should hold taxes on beer at least for the next 3 years, because we believe that the volume will start coming back, and the revenues will also come through with that. So I think that is the best thing. On this tax stamps issue, we think that first of all they need to do an impact study. You've had this system in place for the last 7 years. What are the benefits? Is it helping deal with the issue you are trying to deal with, which was revenue leakage? From where I sit, I don't think it has. So why would you want to impose additional cost to businesses that is not getting you the objective that you wanted to achieve in the first place? So those are, I think, broadly speaking, those are the two things that we'll be looking at. Yeah.
Time for us to take that break. It's 8:30. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room. Eric Kineti is our guest. Eric is the Group Corporate Relations Director at EABL. We are talking about excise stamp that the government is even considering raising again. Between October 2021 and October 2022, it was increased 3 times. There's talk that, in order to increase our tax revenues, one of the ways that the government is looking at the same industry and saying, how about some more excise tax from these guys? And that's what they're going for. And Eric is here to say, come on, people, let's think again about this. All right? Before we go there, can we just review what's been happening so far and the impact of that, not just to the industry, to your own revenues, to our industry, to the Kenyan consumer, and where that is taking the Kenyan consumer to the illicits, which are going to be more poisonous. At 8:30, Eric, you know about Vipingo development in Vipingo, just next to Vipingo Ridge. Your company was sponsoring the ladies golf tournament just the other day at Vipingo Ridge. Neighboring it is the Vipingo Ridge by Centum Real Estate. They have been doing some very good apartments there and bungalows as well and maisonettes. And this time they have phase 2 that they're launching. And they say, come and talk to us, just choose your unit, put a 10% down payment, and then the rest you can pay in installments. It's something I think that you can talk to all your staff about and tell them, guys, because we don't know how the future looks like. It's about time you start investing in a piece of house in the coast. Send the word Vipingo to 22365 and they'll give you more details on this. Keep it here. We'll be back with more details and an extra conversation shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
If you go out of this country and come back the same person, then you have a problem. Buy land, 1 million. Put it there for 5 years. What's the purpose?
It'll have increased in value.
No, that's the thing. That's darkness. That's an eclipse. You don't do that.
I hope you don't believe that a hustler is a poor person or that all hustlers are poor. I've seen that conversation.
Tell us, who is a hustler?
Who is a hustler? Hustler is a person who is making a living through hard work.
Corruption in Kenya is a political accusation. The people who are actually corrupt are not pointed fingers at.
Kenya is not free. Kenya imeshikwa na mateka. It's under siege.
Have you seen that lodge on Nyeri Road? Very high fence. You can't even
Windows
sleep inside.
up near the ceiling.
Yes. And if you walk there at midnight, you see bats the size of cows.
And when it rains, it doesn't rain on that building.
Yes.
When you're at All Saints and it's raining, it doesn't rain on that building.
The things people will believe.
Yeah.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
All right, sunny conditions at 19 in Nairobi, highs of 28 and lows of 16. It's sunny at 17 in Nakuru, highs of 30 and lows of 13, and we'll see lows of 12 in a sunny Nyeri at 16, 15 and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 27. And at 28, it's sunny in Mombasa, highs of 32 and lows of 25. The sun is up as well at 28 in Malindi, highs of 31 and lows of 26. It's 22 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 30 and lows of 19. And we'll see highs of 33 in a sunny Kakamega at 23. 24 and cloudy in Kampala, highs of 27, and heavy thunderstorms continue in Dar es Salaam at 24. It's 18 and cloudy in Johannesburg and clear at 25 in Lagos. For 24 and mostly cloudy conditions in Kinshasa, going to highs of 33 and lows of 24.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
A few minutes going towards 9 o'clock and still heavy coming off of Naivasha Road today, moving very slowly. It spills over, however, to Riara Road and then crosses over towards Gitanga and out towards James Gishuru. It's coming heavy off the Thika Superhighway still, as well as Kiambu Road. In the middle of it is Uhuru Highway, and there's traffic just at that Nyayo Stadium roundabout coming in from Langata Road, going out towards the city. Still continues with traffic. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. There are a couple of nasty accidents yesterday. Can we try and avoid them, please? And thanks.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The conversation continues. Daisy Maritim Minor is our guest host today, and Eric Kineti is a Group Corporate Relations Director at EABL. Our guest for this hour, we are talking about excise stamp and the impact that this is having on the manufacturing sector, and also on the government's objective of increasing the manufacturing sector's contribution to our GDP and all these things that are taking place. Eric, so you've told us excise raised 3 times within 1 year. If my memory serves me right, EABL is one of the top, is the second largest contributor to tax. Is it not?
Yes, it is.
Number 2.
Number 2.
That means when it comes to government, you're second largest stakeholder in terms of the people who bring in money. It's like looking at your biggest buyers of your product.
Yes.
And therefore, you have muscle when it comes to talking to government. You should be able to pick a call and call them, and they'd be say, hey, EABL are calling, they're saying we may get 1 billion shillings less this year, so let's listen to what they're saying. Is this am I actually translating what happens?
I think...
But you have muscle and you can't flex it.
So I think we have our position in the private sector to be able to raise issues, and we have. And we've presented a lot of this data. Whether it's taken into account or not is a different question, and I think it's evident that obviously it's not. But I think in terms of being progressive and being putting our minds and saying where we think tax policy should be, we've done that, and we're just hoping that with this new administration that they will actually take us more seriously and look at that data, because we are not telling them that we want them to reduce taxes now. We're telling them if you hold, you're going to get revenue growth and you're going to get volume growth, and the multiplier impact on the economy is quite significant. So they need to look at that.
You're members of Kenya Association of Manufacturers as well.
Yes.
Now, the manufacturing sector has been complaining, just like Daisy has said. When you say manufacturing is contributing 7% to GDP, it's actually a drop from what was there before. So the manufacturing sector has been talking to government and saying, these are the issues that we need to address. Make it easier for us to do business. Look at taxation. Look at our county levies as well. When you're crossing a product from one to the other, it's affecting us. Look at power. If the manufacturing sector, which is also the biggest creator of jobs, is dropping and it's raising issues, and the government is sitting back and just adding more taxes, where is the disconnect? I feel are you seeing it? Because sometimes you sit back and
It's puzzling. It's
the people at the National Treasury are not like you and I. Okay, these are guys who are proper, highly trained, highly experienced economists. We keep talking about that here. Okay, the best minds.
Yes, Gaffer at the Treasury.
National Treasury. Okay, other very best good minds work for the Kenya Revenue Authority, and they can see these things. So what happens?
I think, like I said earlier, I think maybe the conversations have not landed, because I think we have presented cases, and if you look at even the manufacturing manifesto by KM on and the ambition to get to 20% contribution by 2030, it's very clear and very actionable things that you can do to be able to get there. And if you come back to our sector, if you look at even our industry, beer, the beer industry, no huge investment apart from us who are quite courageous enough to put up the investment in Kisumu of 13 billion in 2018. No one else has come in because the maths don't work. If you start looking at your payback period, if you have to put an investment from a greenfield site and you expect to make money, you will make money. And those are the things we're telling government, that you need to look at where do you want to be in 2030 and what do you need to do now. And one of the things that they have to do now is look at the tax policy, because that's one of the biggest impediments for investment and making Kenya an attractive destination. If you look at even within EABL itself, the amount of investment we've put in capital expenditure in Uganda and Tanzania is quite significant, because we can see how we're going to get money back. Because my shareholder has given me money and they expect us to make money for them. So if you cannot make money for them, they will not give you that investment. And I think that's what we need to look at. And if you look at even the growth in the manufacturing sector in Tanzania, it's quite significant in the last few years, because they are making policies that actually are conducive for businesses in those countries.
Okay, Eric, now be honest with us. When you speak to these sharp minds, they must give you feedback. And probably you're the ones who are not listening to what the government is telling you. What has the government been telling you? When you say, these are the issues that need to be addressed, what do they say? They can't just be nodding and saying, tutaangalia mambo yenu.
But pretty much that's what happens. So because we were invited to make proposals every budget cycle, which we did towards the end of the back end of last year in December. So we sent a proposal on budget proposals. Once in a while, we'll be called to make presentations. But the next feedback you get is when you see the finance bill.
That's it.
That's it.
Do you think you should be, looking at, usually we see a lot of this action as a result of some holes trying to be filled, whether it's in the budget making process, whether it's realizing that your fiscal year has come to an end and you've again not been able to make budget. And then there's this heavy reliance on KRA to collect as much as possible. What's the number? 1.6? 1.8?
The collection targets?
Yeah.
My friend, we are at 2, my friend.
Okay. Right? So unfortunately then, industry takes, or rather will bear the brunt of that responsibility. We already know that the heavy reliance of tax by government could be, injurious in some ways, especially when it comes to industry and individuals. The question then that they would ask these bright minds that we talk about, who are domiciled at Treasury and KRA, is that what could be an option?
I think, and my little knowledge, which studied economics in university, I think you'd start probably looking at from the expenditure side first of all. I think we need to be more careful in terms of the expenditure that we want to get into, because it's like your own budget. If you know you earn a certain salary and you have ambitions of spending more than you earn, then obviously you're going to get into a hole from the onset.
Just a bit, yeah.
So I think and I like what we are starting to see now, austerity measures, and I hope those can be seen through, because it's by reducing expenditure that now the bridge between the revenue that you expect to collect and the expenditure becomes smaller.
Yeah.
As opposed to having a huge expenditure ambition, but your revenues don't speak to that, because now you start to get into borrowing, and then you start making decisions that are not conducive for businesses.
Do you in the alcohol industry face what other commodity sellers face, which is an influx of cheap goods from the Commercial region, from the East African region, that do not face any import duty tax?
So I wouldn't say that's an issue. I think for us it's mainly the illicit ethanol, which is the core raw material for making spirits. That would be a problem from the region. But in terms of the beer sector, I think we are competitive enough. And like I said, the taxes here are higher anyway.
Yeah.
So other markets, if you look at Tanzania and Uganda, the taxes are lower than us. So Tanzania's taxes are about a third of what Kenya is. So you can see already the disparities within that system. So yeah.
I've got to ask you this more direct and controversial question. I mean, it's been in the public domain. Whenever another established formal brewer tries to get into this market, they face frustration. And word out there, the bar talk, is that the big boy in the house, EABL, is trying to fight them to get them out of the business. We saw SAB Miller come into the country a couple of years ago, and then they left the market. Of course, you complained about your own and trying to enter into the South African market with the Tusker and the whole controversy about the Tusker and the brand and the logo and all. But they got out. The newer local plant, Keroche Industries, comes in, and everybody says, this is the big guy who is also trying to use the back door to frustrate the small boy. And yet your biggest competition, like you've told us, 50% is the illicits. Do you support the entry of other players, other formal players, so that then you can have a bigger muscle as the formal industry to push for your issues?
Competition is always welcome, and competition is healthy.
Like genuinely true. Like
genuinely true. Because I will also not be in EABL all my life. So one day I'd want to consume a brand, and as a consumer, I think the best you can get is have a wide array of products that you can be able to make a decision on which one you want to consume. And I think from our business point of view, because we have a lot of research, we've done a lot of data analytics, one of the things we do is we are very big on innovation. And if you look, every year we are launching new brands. Some work, some don't. It's because we know also the consumer is changing. The consumer is exposed to a lot of things that are happening globally. So for us to remain relevant, and for us to have been in this industry for 100 years, is because we always move with the consumer. And we think that we are able to give the consumer an offer that they'll be able to take that is better than our competition. And that's why we want to compete.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking at the numbers, in terms of what then, you're raking in every year, would you say that, this year it's been tough, you've broken a sweat, taken a dent in profits? Has that been the case? Because one would assume that has been the case, and that's why there's,
concern.
So that's why there's concern. Or the concern is coming from, and this is part B, that the concern is coming from, okay, obviously we know that the end user or the consumer bears the brunt of any kind of, new taxes that are slapped on. It's not you going to say, okay, well, let's shoulder this for the consumer. No, it's all transferred to the bottle, right?
Yeah.
So is it that there will be less consumption? Obviously, that's less, buying. Is that where the concern is? Or actually, yes, profits have taken a dent or taken a hit. And this is where the concern now lies with this whole hoo-ha about the excise.
Yeah, so the issue, and I think I explained about the illicit market being about 50%. So the issue is not that consumption is going to go down. It's that consumers are moving from formal to informal. So that's the challenge. Actually, and we actually say our biggest competitor is the informal.
The informal, yes.
For us, is how do we recruit people from drinking those illicits into consuming what is formal? Because that's where the biggest opportunity is for us. And that's why we would want to partner with government, because it's a win-win situation for both of us.
So would it make sense if then you looked at, the manufacturing of cheaper product?
So we've invested in Senator Keg, which addresses that. But the challenge also is that you have other offerings, like I talked about the spirits that are going at between 100 and 150. So even Senator cannot compete with those brands. Because first of all, the alcohol content in those brands is higher. Senator is about 4.5% ABV. So you're having a spirit that's about 40%. So the consumer with 100 shillings would rather buy that than buying 3 mugs of Senator. Because, he'll get more value for money. And that's a challenge. So how do you ensure that you're enforcing properly to ensure that the consumer is not being able to access that product? And how do you ensure that you also make it very difficult for the supply side of that the informal are also not producing? Because it's a demand and supply kind of balance that you need to strike. So the enforcement will help because it shrinks that informal, and then we are able to provide an offering that consumers will be able to take.
Do you play a whistleblowing role? You know who this 50% are. Well, many of them, especially those that are bringing products into your own market. Do you play a whistleblowing role? Do you tell the government, look at
so we get a lot of intelligence because our salespeople are in the field. We have our distributors going to these bars every day, so they'll tell you the trends of what they're seeing. Around last year, at some point, we had a product that was being sold in parts of mountain, which was actually animal feed. Animal feed, that is, when you mix it with yeast, it becomes a brew.
Wow. Say what now?
Yep. So you find some of those industries, you're like, okay, what's going on here? The consumer.
Repeat.
Sorry, Eric. Human beings are consuming this?
Yes.
In Kenya?
Yes.
Okay. And there are people who are producing it and packaging it for human consumption?
Yes.
All right. Sounds illegal.
It does.
Is it?
It is.
But that's where their whistleblowing comes in.
Yeah.
So what do you do about such?
So you just inform the authorities and say, look, we are seeing this.
We have very many authorities that are supposed to. There's the Anti-Counterfeit Authority.
Yep.
All right. And I believe it brings together even manufacturers, so you're represented in it.
Yes, so, and we raise a lot of complaints through the Anti-Counterfeit Agency, and we have a lot of cases even in courts because a lot of brand infringement and trademark infringement. So we raise those issues with them, and we've made reports to them. We've also a number of cases also we've raised with KRA and even local authorities, because even counties have a role to play in some of these things. Yeah,
and
there's some action, and I must say, when we have seen this multi-agency initiatives going on, we have seen a lot of activity in terms of dealing with the problem. The only issue is that they're not sustained. So they do what they call a rapid resource initiative, 100 days.
Yep.
A lot of seizures are done, and then they go quiet. So then the guys come back again. And also, there's a big piece also with the judiciary, because sometimes you find people who've even been taken to court, either they are let go, or even the fines are not huge enough. Punitive enough to stop them from going back into doing this.
What do you think should be done better?
I think there's a bit of sensitization across all enforcement agencies in terms of what the challenges are, where the issues are, for them to be able to focus on those. I think funding is an issue, because enforcement requires funding, and I don't think government is investing enough in terms of ensuring that the enforcement is being done. And I think there's a bit of awareness that needs to be created even in the judiciary in terms of the effects of all this, in terms of what is it doing to people's health, what is it doing to businesses and the economy as well.
Is there a room for creation of a separate fund, say by the private sector, that then goes to support the enforcement? Because the private sector, what are we being told by the CEO of ACAM? How much? Is it almost $1 trillion shillings? That's basically just all of this is being lost as government revenue because of the illicits. How about the private sector then just committing a fund somewhere and saying that we're going to support this? Of course, you can give it a sunset clause and say this one we're supporting the government for the next 5 years, but we shall make sure that the government is also increasing budgetary allocation.
Eric, we are paying taxes.
I know.
They should be directed to that.
I know, but they're not. And it's eating into our market and poisoning people.
Yeah.
So no room for that?
No, it's a conversation we can have. But I think, it's a wider discussion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Members of Parliament then, because they're the ones who appropriate budgets into all these agencies and onto all these tasks. How much more engagement do you think ought to go to parliamentarians?
I think there's definitely an opportunity for constructive and dialogue with Parliament, because I think even the issues we're talking about now,
taxation,
you might find they're not aware. And that's what we aim to do even when we are doing the engagements on the finance bill, because that's usually the opportunity when we have to look at what the proposal the government has come with. But there probably needs to be a wider conversation on tax by Parliament and looking at each of these sectors, because I think, like I've said, our sector is quietly impacted, and if we don't do something now, it's going to get worse.
Sure. There's the profit and there's the commercial side of things, but then also there's the social side of things as well. And I'm looking specifically at this 50% that we talk about of illicit brew. So there's a health hazard here, one. There's also, again, a societal issue here where we've seen the stories of people who die, go blind. I mean, a lot of things happening here. Do you think you have a role to play here as well? Because whether we want to put, the formal industry on a pedestal here, we can't run away from the linkages that there are then between that and the illicit industry as well. Talking about the danger that it poses to Kenyans' lives who consume these brews or whatever it is that they are that are dangerous to health. Do you think you have a role to play?
Yes, we do. And I think there's some programs that we've been running as well in terms of, first of all, we look at, if you look at the problem of illicit, people get into illicit not because it's the best option, but it's probably the only option to make money. So one of the things that we've tried to do is, how do we identify these people, and most of them usually are actually women. How do you train them to do something else? Because they are doing it because they're looking for a source of livelihood. How do you recruit them to do something else? So one of the things that we've done is some of them recruit them to run the senator bars, because you're already in the alcohol trade, you know your customers. How do we help you set up formally? And then you're selling something that is illegitimate. The other one is that we offer Learning for Life program, which is a program where we are trying to give skills to young people to be able to go ahead and start their own business, like entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial skills, because we feel that it's an opportunity to create economic empowerment. And that also removes them from the vice of consuming or producing illicit. So definitely there's a role. Maybe it's not at the scale that we want it to be, But I think that's one of the areas that we feel that as a business we can be able to provide a solution.
You know, actually, I actually thought about that, co-opting them, and I thought that it was too far-fetched, like co-opting the, illicit brewers. But these guys, some of them are quite creative. I mean, some of their creations become dangerous.
Yeah.
But they're local alchemists. Like, some of them, would you incorporate them now into your R&D departments? Because also, what they're doing, some of these people have been brewing for a really long time and are responding even to the local tastes of the people, in what they're producing.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
So I wouldn't say that we recruit them to be to be brewers on our side, but I think the main issue here is that it's an outlet.
Yeah.
They are able to sell. So when we set up these senator bars, we give them those opportunities. We even pay, in some instances, we even paid licenses for them because we are like, we want you to come for more. And we want you to have a decent, you don't want every day there's a chief coming knocking on your door.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
So how do we ensure that we support? And we've worked with county governments like the county government of Kisumu in terms of how do we even have reduced licenses for these people so that they are able to transition and they have decent working conditions and they can be able to be productive in the economy.
Yeah. Does EABL have a foundation?
Yes, we do have a foundation.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a push to have these traditional brews formally recognized and registered. Then so that we can move into where Muratina is actually a product and there is a standard of producing Muratina and it can be packaged, it can be sold
like
properly.
Waraji out of Uganda,
Like the way they do with Waraji. That would be something else, instead of just always condemning them. But you guys are making busa, and Muzungu came and told us busa is not a good thing. Busa has been a good thing for years.
There are actually some standards. I think Changa has a standard. The only challenge is the setup because of all these additional issues and costs that you have to bring in.
There's no incentive.
There's no incentive for someone to do it. And actually, at some point, we had a proposal because we're saying some of these traditional brews actually they play a role in our culture. If you have a wedding and there is Muratina and all these things, it's cultural. And we're saying the way there's a way you can have it licensed within that local community because you know who is licensed to produce and for what purpose. It's not supposed to be a place where you're selling the product, but if Eric has an initiation ceremony at his place, we know that there's so and so who can brew this stuff and it will be delivered to this place for that particular ceremony, but not for commercial.
But that is containing them. Why not commercial?
Because Eric becomes competition to EABL when he blows up.
No, then this guy has to pay tax, which he'll be like, okay, I don't want to pay tax. So it becomes back into the den. Yeah.
It's about incentivizing them so that then we can also, just like you said, competition is good.
Yeah.
It may also actually make you, as you continually innovate, start giving us brats.
Yeah. What? Muratina.
Eric Kineti, thank you very much for joining us today and thank you for raising these conversations. We've had the chairman of the Finance Committee of the National Assembly here, the MP for Molo, and we're going to have him again. And now that we have these insights, we'll invite him and we can also maybe invite you with him as you publicly lobby for these particular issues.
I would look forward to that.
Yeah. Eric Kineti is a Group Corporate Relations Director at EABL. He's been here with us this morning talking about excise stamp duty, and what is happening is the increases in excise stamp and what they're doing to the industry, and not just that, what they're doing to consumers of alcoholic drinks in this country, pushing them more and more into the dangerous and poisonous zone, which then affects our productivity as a nation. And what that is doing to the manufacturing sector, losing revenues and losing growth in that as well. Asante sana for joining us. Keep it here for more. The next hour, we want to talk about what are called independent oil marketing companies. Some are called local, some are called indigenous. It's basically oil marketing companies who also contribute 50% of the market share in the oil marketing trade in this country. They are not illicit. They are not duty not paid. They are not counterfeit. They are legal registered businesses. How does the government support them? That's the next conversation. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. Former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiangi has protested a night police raid at his home, saying he's ready to face any charges. His lawyers, led by Dunstan Omari, who camped at the home in Karen during the raid, said the client's life is at risk and accused police of harassment. However, Omari stated that the client is ready to be summoned to appear before any police station and record a statement provided there are charges against him. The police officers are said to have left the lawyer's house after lawyers arrived and no documents were served to them. What is expected in court anytime now to seek an anticipatory bail for Matiangi over impending arrest. Now, police in Kasarani, Nairobi County are currently holding a man found in possession of counterfeit Kenya Revenue Authority stamps and uncustomed alcoholic drinks. Johannes Odhiambo was arrested following a joint sting operation led by Directorate of Criminal Investigations, detectives and KRA officials. The DCI's Economic and Commercial Crimes Unit has since processed the scene, while Odhiambo is helping police trace the whereabouts of 10 of his accomplices who managed to evade police during the raid. And Treasury has reduced the budget allocation to the National Intelligence Service by 10 billion shillings in the 2022-2023 supplementary budget. The Treasury slashed the budget for the Security Intelligence Team from 46.127 billion shillings to 36.127 billion in the financial year ending June 30th. According to Njuguna Ndung'u-led ministry, the 10 billion shillings cut is on account of budget rationalization. The Ministry of Interior and National Administration has also budget has been reduced to 112.1 billion shillings, down from 143.5 billion shillings. It could deal a major blow to the country's security. Ndung'u also singled out the transfer of functions by President William Ruto's administration as another reason for the budget cuts. And preparations are in top gear for the national Thanksgiving prayer to be held Sunday in Nakuru County. Governor Susan Kihika, while touring the Nakuru Athletics Club, where the prayers will be conducted, said all was set for the national event. Kihika said the purpose of the prayers was to give thanks to God for the continued peace the country and the country at large have had since being sworn into office. This event is expected to be graced by President William Ruto, who will lead the Kenya Kwanza administration in the prayers. On a part, Gilgil MP Martha Wangari said they expect to have at least 20,000 people at the prayer service, saying it will go a long way in dedicating the nation to God. Wangari called on Kenyans to turn up in large numbers and give thanks for the far the nation had come and also pray for prosperity. And police are holding one suspect in custody over the production of counterfeit alcohol and use of fake Kenya Revenue Authority stamps. Detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigation and officials from KRA confirmed the arrest of the main suspect. The detectives discovered a fully fledged manufacturing and bottling plant during the raid, where an assortment of unaccustomed alcoholic drinks and fake KRA stamps were recovered. The scene has been preserved by the police. And detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations arrested 8 suspects believed to be part of a well-coordinated fraud syndicate that siphoned over 500 million shillings from Safaricom's overdraft facility for Lisa on diverse dates between 2022 and 2023. Isaac Kipkemboi, Gideon Bono, Maxwell Kibuthu, Gideon Kirui, Moses Rono, Collins Kipegon and Edwin Cheruiyot, all aged between 24 and 30 years, were arrested at an apartment in Kiamunyi, Nakuru County, while the alleged mastermind Peter Gitai was apprehended by sleuth in Kitale, Trans Nzoia County. According to the DCI, the suspects would use fraudulently generated identity card numbers to register SIM cards and borrow money from the overdraft facility before engaging on their obligations to pay back the debts. The suspects were found in possession of thousands of Safaricom and Airtel SIM cards. And the leading factor driving people to join fast-growing violent extremist groups in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of job opportunities. This is according to a new report released by the UN Development Programme. The report, entitled Journey to Extremism in Africa, Pathways to Recruitment and Disengagement, underscores the importance of economic factors as drivers of recruitment. Lack of income, the lack of job opportunities and livelihoods means that desperation is essentially pushing people to take up opportunities with whoever offers that. This is according to Achim Steiner, UNDP administrator. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
still coming in hot from the Thika Superhighway, and we're looking at that just past the Utali Drift. Traffic still continues there. Reduced significantly coming off of James Gishuru. That whole Westlands area seems to be doing, the business after traffic hour. It's heavy on Ring Road Westlands. That still continues. But we're coming from Nyeri Stadium roundabout. It's quite some as you head out towards the CBD. Apart from that, it looks like we're doing better with traffic this morning. Keep an eye on things, though. We'll take a look in a short while. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us about what you see, where you're going. Keep safe.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
7 minutes
is
after
the
9.
Situation
Welcome
Room.
to the final
The
hour of
only
the
way to
Situation Room today. It's the 9th day of February 2023. We are still on Thursday. Where this week?
No, you started on Thursday, so of course I can understand your fear and trepidation.
It was Thursday 2 days ago, Daisy. And it's still Thursday.
And it's still Thursday.
Yeah.
That's how it feels, huh?
Yeah.
Time is relative
Okay.
to experience and context.
So, I mean, some time warp.
Yeah.
I'm just stuck somewhere, not moving. I wish that were the case. We have a new guest joining us in the studio. Well, Daisy Maritime Minor is our guest host today. She is a governance and policy expert, and she has been on the show before. And we have a guest now, Irene Kimathi, who is the national chairperson of the United Energy and Petroleum Association of Kenya. The United Energy and Petroleum Association of Kenya. It's a long one. She'll tell us more about it. Let's welcome her with the day's proverb. Irene, this proverb today is from Malawi. It goes like, if you're going to bathe, get thoroughly wet.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to bathe, get thoroughly wet.
Yeah.
You relate?
Yeah, I got it.
Hmm?
Yeah.
What's your interpretation of it?
Yeah, if you have to do something, do it extremely very well.
Give it your all.
Yeah, give it your all.
It's been the same interpretation with everybody today.
Yep.
Quite consistent.
Yeah.
So actually we can just say this is what the Malawians meant. Sour. They're happy. They must be happy. Irene, the United Energy and Petroleum Association of Kenya. Tell us about this association.
Well, our association is one that is representing the fuel dealers, especially the retailers, and mostly the indigenous companies or the local companies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we are going through a very tough season in the fuel industry, and mostly because our industry is an industry that has a lot of interest with the government. We have competitors that we call multinationals. And therefore, we see if we don't have a lobby group that is really standing in the gap to make sure that the policies that are made are favoring us, then we can easily be crowded out of the market. And that's what UNIPA is all about.
So what are you supposed to do as members of UNIPA? What do they get from it?
From our association is making sure that we have a link between the government and them to have good policies and to have a united voice, because we call them the independent dealers or the local companies. We are over 50% of the market share. And sometimes you find that when policies are being made, nobody considers our situation, basically because we are many people, individual people. So we have voice that is individual. So when we put up an association, we speak in in one voice. Now we have been in situations where when the government wants to make policies, they listen to the big players, they look at things from their angle, and they don't look at things from our angle. So UNIPA is there to bring the angle of the independent many dealers.
So you're there, Francis Atwoli.
Yeah.
Sauti ya wengi.
Yeah.
You know, many people would think that if we are talking about the oil marketing industry, it is one industry. It's the same issues. If we are talking about building a petrol station, it's building a petrol station. It's got to be somewhere. I mean, there are regulations of how you put up a petrol station, how far it can be from the road, what you're supposed to have as safety measures around the petrol station, how far it should be from residential, maybe from schools, probably. There are regulations on that. And then the industry is one. You're all selling the same product. You're all selling petrol, diesel, or LPG, or lubricants. Okay? Same. You're selling to people who are similar. It's all motorists and homes that are using LPG. So why would we have fragments in terms of, there are big people, there are small people, there are multinationals, there are local, why?
We sell one product. The difference is the way the supply chain is designed. Because we have the independent oil marketers that will participate in the OTS, and they are going to bring in fuel that is surplus. We get from the surplus. Most of the independent dealers will get from surplus because we cannot all of us go to import. So now we have also now the multinationals. The multinationals will enjoy the whole system, whole supply chain. Some of them have been in the market for over 100 years. They are all over the world. They enjoy everything from drilling to importation to retail. So we are not reading from the same book. And therefore, when policies are made to just consider those ones, if they forget that, for example, when the pricing model is done by EPRA, the pricing model, they will calculate fuel from the port to the depots. They will give losses on transit. They will calculate the taxes and all those things. But when it comes to us, they don't consider the losses that we make. So as they are doing the pricing, they just give us the margin, which is just 4 shillings. They have imposed taxes on us, which is the 8% VAT. Yet the wholesale has no cap. So they'll do calculation. They'll say our costing is this. The wholesale price is 100 shillings plus the margin plus the transport plus VAT. Now you sell at that. But now when the wholesaler is selling, there is the supply demand function that is working in the market. So you'll find that the way they were calculating, they have given you maybe 110 is a wholesale price. But in a real sense, you'll not buy at 110. And the retailer is capped, maybe sell at 115. So the wholesaler will decide, I'm going to sell at 113. So you find that our market is very fragile. And it is moving and up and down. It's something that we cannot really be able to project about. And that's basically why we are talking. We are saying that we are being sandwiched in the middle there. Yet we are contributing too much to the economy. When we talk about over 50%, you can imagine the many employees that we employ. You can imagine we are the people that really supply where the multinationals cannot go, because multinationals will be concentrated in the big towns. As we will go to the very rural areas, and we cause our people to be mobile, the economy to work faster. And therefore, we should really be considered when all these things are being looked at. That's why UNIPA is there.
Let me ask the question. We have a formula, all right? A legal formula that EPRA uses every month to determine this, how much fuel is going to retail at. In that formula, when you look at the calculations, we'll see they start from the landed cost up. They say, put a price cap of 12 bob, and they say the maximum that you can sell this product at the retail petrol station is 177, for example, right now. What are the factors that go into that one, the 12 shillings margin? Who gets the 12 bob?
Now, as per the law, we are supposed to get 12 shillings. There's 4 shillings for the wholesaler, the person that will ship in the fuel to the depot. There's 4 shillings for the person that has put up a petrol station for the investment, because you should get return on your investment. And there's 4 shillings for the retailer. Bearing in mind, there are people who build petrol stations and lease out. So you calculate this 4 shillings is going to the leasing. And there are also the multinationals that are going to get somebody to run the station. So they divide these 4 shillings to the retailer. If you are an independent dealer, maybe you have built your petrol station and you're the retailer, then you're supposed to enjoy the 8 shillings. But in our system, the one that really enjoys the real margin is the importer. Because if they lose any fuel, they are going to get a compensation on the actual loss. So them, they will get their clean 4 shillings. And sometimes they get more depending on other factors. But let's come to the retailer. And more so, not the retailer that is franchised. Because the retailer that is franchised, that is the one that is now under the multinationals and the big companies, they will say you're going to get 3-point-something shillings per litre. So that one, whether the prices go up or down, they are going to get 3-point-something shillings per litre. But now let's come to us, the independent dealers, that will wait to buy fuel from the depot. The prices will fluctuate. So it means that our profits are always fluctuating. And this has been our problem.
Why is the price fluctuating? Because in the month between the 14th of January and the 14th of February, EPRA has told us this is how much the fuel is costing. Is there any fluctuation between 14th and 14th?
The fluctuation is not for the retailer. And that's where we are coming in. The fluctuation is for us. It's not for the consumer. It's for the retailer. Because remember, I have said again, the wholesaler is not capped. It can sell at any price. Last year, you saw big queues. You saw queues, and we were told there are some people that are holding fuel.
Yes.
They were not holding fuel. What was happening was this. Because of the subsidies, the wholesalers said, we cannot subsidize for the consumer and can subsidize for you retailer. You are a seller like me. So if you're going to buy, you buy from me at the pump price. Because this pump price that I'm giving, I'm also subsidizing like 20 shillings. So if the fuel is 177, they said we are going to sell to you at 177. And definitely we could not buy. So we stopped selling. And that's why you saw long queues, mostly on the multinationals, because they had fuel, but they could not be able to sustain their market.
So you guys as independent didn't have fuel?
Fuel was there, but we could not buy it because of the price.
Because of the price.
Because of the price. And they had a logical argument too. They are saying we cannot subsidize for the government and subsidize for our competitors. And that's why.
So this is what was happening then. You guys didn't have fuel because you couldn't buy it. They were selling it to you at 177. It was not affordable. It didn't make sense. You wouldn't make any profit from it.
So we stopped buying.
They were selling it to us. So it was a function of now supply has narrowed to just Total and Rubies, but you guys couldn't.
We couldn't.
So up country, in places where there is no Total and Rubies, what was happening? There was just no fuel completely.
That's why now you are seeing them carrying jerrycans going to buy from the big towns.
But then you also went out of country, didn't you, as independents, to sell to Uganda and other countries where you would make then a profit. So you were actually buying, but you were not selling in country. Is that what was happening?
No, it's not the independents. It's still the old sellers. Because the neighboring countries were not giving any subsidy. So as a business person, you want to make profit. This thing of subsidy is for the government. Business person, you need to make profit to survive. So when the subsidy came, they started sending outside the country. Why should you sell here? And the government is holding your 20 shillings per every litre, and they are not paying you immediately. You know, our business is cash.
Understood.
There's nothing
But you were selling outside the country.
Not us, not the retailers.
The retailer is not getting from the wholesaler.
Yeah, because the wholesaler is selling outside the country.
Understood.
You're getting?
Let's take a step back now, because the folks are wondering, retailer,
wholesaler,
importer, OTS.
Let's break it down.
Who are you, and how do you get fuel from the shore to the pump as an independent? What do you do? How is this process?
Now let me bring you back to the process. There's usually an OTS that is open tender system where people bid for the fuel they'll bring. These are the big sellers. And now they'll be awarded. You bring in 1 million liters, 10 million liters, according to the liters that you can be able to push through for a month or for the period that they are giving. And now you buy. They buy together, they come in vessels. So the fuel is offloaded at Mombasa and then pumped through Kenya Pipeline. to the depots. We have Nairobi, we have Mombasa, we have Kisumu, all those depots.
Yeah.
When this fuel comes here, the ones that have the old chain, they are bringing in the fuel and they are retailing. Now, when it is in the depot, let's call that the wholesale.
Okay.
From the depot is a common user facility. This is owned by the government, but they lease it out. Now, from there, you sell to the retailers. So the retailers will come and pick the fuel from the depots. And the prices are made every day, maybe as per the price of the dollar, the international prices of fuel. So we don't get prices on 14th as the retailers. We get the prices daily because they fluctuate as per the foreign exchange, the supply that is there, the demand that is in them. Because sometimes the demand might shoot beyond what they thought. Maybe the vessel that was bringing in the fuel is a little bit late, so they have to squeeze what they have to be able to cover the period that they might not be having the fuel. So all these shocks, we are the ones that absorb the shocks. Because remember, even if I buy expensively, I'm not going to sell at a cheaper price. Yeah. I'm not going to sell at a higher price. I'm just going to be capped up to there. So that's where we as independents are coming in, because there is an opportunity. There is demand for fuel. We field in the demand. Yeah, we are selling to them and we are supplying to them. But now the system is this. During OTS, we have many people that don't retail. They just bring as wholesalers and they sell to us. And right now we have a big problem, because during this season of subsidy, the government did not repay back. The government owes 53 billion to the industry. And this one is really affecting the small shippers. Because when we talk about shippers, they are big. But when we reach there, they are small and the big shippers. The small shippers are the ones that supply our market. But now the small shippers don't have money. So what is happening? They have cut on their supply. And another thing, the government had said that they are going to pay them 3 billion shillings every week. I think this was about December there. They have not been able to honor. So what is happening? Because these guys, if your money is with the government and you're paying a loan, what do? You push that cost of the interest to the retailer. And the retailer can't push it to the consumer. So it is just sandwiching us and crowding us out effectively. And the reason why we are crying foul is because we have seen a consistent design of trying to push us out. For example, if you look at the EPRA laws that are there, that are designed in the year 2020, they'll talk about if you want to put up a petrol station, you have to do a feasibility study and give it to them. You have to tell them the distance between your station and the next station, the liters that you're expecting to sell. And we asked, this is a free economy. We see supermarkets lined up, this supermarket and the other supermarket. Why would we want to censor the growth of petrol stations? Because the demand in Nairobi is not the same demand in the rural areas. So we are seeing a concerted design of trying to push us out. You also look at the taxation system. The way we are being taxed as fuel dealers, because you find that our cash flows are usually high. You have had our margins are 4 shillings. In 180 shillings, you're making 4 shillings. But you'll turn a lot of 180s to be able to make 4 shillings that will be able to cover your costs, and you make profits. And this is the same money that you go tomorrow and buy, the other day and buy. But at the end of the year, when you look at the turnovers, they are big turnovers. So you find the taxman also comes and looks at our turnovers, and they give us demand letters as per the turnovers. They forget the fuel industry is not manufacturing. A manufacturing company with big turnovers, they are making big profits. But for us, our big turnovers don't translate to big profits. And you're hearing how volatile our market is. And we are agitating as UNIPA, let the laws of taxation in this country be reviewed, especially on the fuel market. And we want to be involved as they put up those laws. Because as per them, they will say, in our pricing system, we put 8% when we are giving you the margin of the wholesale and the retail. But you have heard our market is fluctuating. So we cannot say now you gave me the 8%, I'm receiving it. In the other markets, let's say you are operating an hardware. You bring in your mabati, you say my cost is this, and now I put 16%. But for us, I bring in my fuel, I've lost fuel on transit. If I bought at 170, I lost 100 liters because there are so many things that happen at the depot on transit. There is the temperatures, there is all those things. So you find when I bring my fuel, I have lost like 100 liters. I bought at 170, now my cost has pushed up. It's 173. And I'm supposed to sell at 177. And the taxman is saying my 8% is there. And I know you bought at 170, so you give me 8%. So you find that if we pay, the way we are supposed to pay, you can never break even. You can never break even. And when the taxman now comes to check, you'll not want to know. You tell him, I made losses. Bring the documents. You bring the documents, you say, this is when you're colluding with your people, with the employees to defraud the government. And we are saying, why doesn't the government put this 8% on top of the lander? So that whatever losses I go through here, I don't have the taxman coming after me. And in fact, it would be very good for them. Because sometimes, that if we do things as per the way other people do, we hear US is doing this and others are doing this. We bring it to ourselves and we don't. Without context. We don't look at our situation. So now, if they can put it on top of the lander, it means we will distribute this 8% to the whole economy, such that when I sell, nobody is following me. If I make 1 shilling, 2 shillings, if I'm pushed out of the market, it's not because of the government, it's because of my inability to do business. Yep.
Increasingly, as you talk, I'm seeing how independent dealers are acted upon from every angle, right? You're operating as it is in a highly regulated industry. You are subject to global regulations, and then you also have the local regulations that you're talking about that they need to be reviewed. Then the other thing is that you're operating, you're small boys and girls, to put it bluntly. You said the bigger corporations, their supply chain is direct. When from the OTC, it comes all the way, is it the OTC? From the OTS. From the OTS to the depots, it goes straight to their stations, while you guys now go and buy from them. Now, with all these things that are acting against you, as it is right now, what kind of protection do you have? I know you are there to agitate for protection and to create it, but so far, what kind of protection is the government giving you as independent dealers and indigenous oil players?
None.
Absolutely zero?
Absolutely none. If anything, they are fueling in our removal from the market. And let me tell you, I'm not talking as much as I'm talking on behalf of the independent dealers and the fuel dealers. Let me talk on behalf of this economy, because this economy is affecting all of us. If the independent dealers are pushed out of the market, we leave this market for the multinationals. What will happen? They can take hostage of an economy. And I think the one that liberalized this market for us to enter looked and saw that gap. They can say today we don't have fuel, or the price we are going to sell at is this amount. So at the end of the day, it will take the country at hostage. Look at other countries. Look at the history of Nigeria. Look at the history of multinationals anywhere. You see, they can hold a country a hostage. Number two, the money that a multinational makes, they are our competitors, and we don't fear competition. We don't fear competition. Let us be given a level playground. Let the government pay the subsidies. Let it stop interfering too much with this market. We don't fear competition. The multinationals have the advantage of systems. They have the advantage of structures. They have the advantage of advertisement. That's okay. We are going to operate with them as per that level. But now, when we leave the multinationals to themselves, what will happen at the end of the day is that they are going to dictate the supply and the prices and the money that they receive when they make their profits. How much money trickles back to our economy? For an indigenous business person, whatever they get, they have employed people, and their profits, they invest back here. But the multinationals, they will invest back in their countries. So we should balance both. We should balance the multinationals, and we should balance the independent dealers. And before, we used to do well. Before the year about 2018, we were doing well. The fluctuations were just normal fluctuations. But we are feeling that now we are being overregulated with a designed purpose to push us out of the market. And you know, an independent dealer, when I get out of the market, I leave that market share for who? For the multinational. So when the other day, one of my neighbors closed shop. Independent dealers are closing shop every day, systematically. At the end of the day, that market share now is going to the multinationals. So this is something that should be looked at very, very seriously. And when we are making policies, let us be able to call these so-called small players, because I said again, we are not small players. Over 50%, in fact, we are the majority of players. Let us call them on the table. When you look at the EPRA board that regulates us, there is in the representation of the board, there is no person from the fuel industry. So we just have elites and people that will use books and do research from other countries, and they don't get exactly where it pinches.
They don't have practical experience.
And you know, in business, it's not about books. What you study in school is not what you find on the ground. And I usually say again, as a country, let us not kill this resource. It's an art to be a business person. That's why not all of us are not business people. I don't know if you have ever tried business. You do business? And you know, succeeding in business, when you see somebody who has been in business 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, salute that person. It's an art. And these are people that we should not kill. And therefore, we are requesting an EPRA board, let it have somebody that is representing the fuel dealers, more so the independent dealers, so that this person can say, this regulation you want to push is not going to favor these people. Let us put a standard that is favoring all of us. And that's what UNIPA is advocating for.
Let's take a break. 28 minutes to 10. This very passionate conversation is with Irene Kimathi. She is the national chairperson of the United Energy and Petroleum Association of Kenya, UNIPA. We are talking about what the government ought to do so that it can support the local oil marketing companies. These are the independent, indigenous, call it whatever you want to call it. These are the non-multinationals. Okay? Tell her about this month of February.
In a give this February. Something to, entertain you with. 300 shillings. Showmax says, pay 300 shillings, you get a month's worth of viewing, plus another month. Series, movies, documentaries, all kinds of entertainment on TV with Showmax in a give properly. 300 shillings, twice the value. Yes?
Yep. On that note, let's take that break. We take a look at the weather and traffic and hear the business news. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
Get 2 months of Showmax for the price of one. In a give, Real Housewives, rich auntie vibes, and that bling. Samakuwa Mocha.
Toasted luxury.
In a give, single Cassie, girl power.
Cheers!
And gravity-defying Top Gun victory flyby.
Haven't any fun yet?
Woo! In a give Kupindukia. So subscribe now to get 2 months for the price of one from only 300 shillings for limited time. In a give Showmax. Sign up at showmax.com. Get 2 months of Showmax for the price of one. In a give, Real Housewives, rich auntie vibes, and that bling. Samakuwa Mocha.
Toasted luxury.
In a give, single Cassie, girl power.
Cheers!
And gravity-defying Top Gun victory flyby.
Haven't any fun yet?
Woo! In a give Kupindukia. So subscribe now to get 2 months for the price of one from only 300 shillings for limited time. In a give Showmax. Sign up at showmax.com.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
You tune into Kenya's biggest conversation. My name is Ramanyan.
Amen. Amen.
So 1 hour is over?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. It gets over.
Can you imagine
in 20 minutes?
What the big boys have also done?
I'm very proud of myself.
When you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent.
Why should you have a lioness living in your bedroom?
I have to tell you a story. I went for a prayer meeting, which was called for the spouses of candidates for senators and governors. And when I got to the gate, the lady who was she refused to. She's telling me no. Leo tunataka wamama. Leo ni wamama. I'm telling her no. She said no. Sio siku yenu. And I thought there's a problem here, because if it was a man, but this was a lady.
21 degrees, sunny conditions in Nairobi. It'll go to highs of 28 today. We'll see highs of 30 in sunny Nakuru at 20. It's 19 in Nyeri. We'll see highs of 28 and 17 in Eldoret, going to highs of 27. 30 and cloudy in Mombasa, highs of 32, and we'll see highs of 31 in Malindi, where it's cloudy this morning. 25 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 30, highs of 33 in Kakamega at 26 currently. 25 and mostly cloudy conditions in Kampala, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 32 in Dar es Salaam, where it's now raining. Heavy thunderstorms over 4 now. Mostly cloudy at 18 in Johannesburg, going to highs of 24. And we'll see highs of 34 in Lagos, where it's sunny at 25. Mostly cloudy at 25 in Kinshasa, highs of 33. Looking out into Beijing, Thursday evening is cloudy at 0, highs of 2 and lows of -6. -5 and partly cloudy in Paris, highs of 6. And we'll see highs of 10, where it's cloudy at 3 in London. 5 degrees and clear coming into Thursday morning in New York soon. Highs of 11 and lows of 5.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, coming out of traffic hour this morning, whereby it's not so heavy in certain parts. At least traffic is moving along those trouble areas that we saw before. So what's standing out? Okay, a little bit on the thicker superhighway coming out towards the Pangani underpass, but the rest of it looks manageable. Limuru Road still giving a little bit, but apart from that, it should be all right through the morning. Speak to us, however. SpiceFM, KE on Twitter.
Business News with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. Student hostels developer Akon Holding Limited will build affordable students' hostels after inking a 6.7 billion shillings financing deal with Absa Group and Absa Bank Kenya. In the deal, AHL will develop 10 purpose-built student accommodations in Nairobi, Kenya. Construction of new PBSA will add Akon student accommodation rates in additional 12,000 beds, pushing total bed capacity to 21,000. Manufacturers have voiced their concern over planned electricity hike by Kenya Power, which they say will lead to higher cost of production. The Kenya Association of Manufacturers argues that the increment will see the cost of electricity rise by between 3 shillings and 50 cents and 5 shillings depending on tariff and consumption. The utility company has proposed a new tariff for domestic consumers that will see power charges rise by between 13 to 20%. Banks in Kenya have consistently improved service delivery over the last 3 years, increasing their collective customer satisfaction rating by 13.5%. This is according to a new report. According to the Gold Standard of Banking Service report, the country's overall banking industry services excellence rating rose from 82.7% in 2019 to 96.2% in 2021. The report analyzes the quality of banking customer services in Kenya over a period of 3 years based on the industry's annual customer satisfaction survey, which was introduced by the Kenya Bankers Association in 2019. Flexi Personal is looking for a private label manager with a degree in sales and marketing, business administration or procurement with at least 5+ years of experience in retail. Suitable candidates are required to send their CVs and cover letter by 10th February 2023. Visit jobs.diga.co.ke for more information on these and other jobs. Diga Jobs, your credible and trusted job partner.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
On Spice FM and online, our guest this morning, Irene Kimathi from the United Energy and Petroleum Association of Kenya. Our guest host is still here. And what? Okay. Irene,
the intricacies of the oil industry are swelling in my head.
This is all over. Irene, you said that initially, so let's just look back over the last 40 years. There's a period when you did not have so many local independent players in this industry. And then there's a period when you had an influx of every other news station that's opening up is not the multinational brands that we're used to, it's the new brands that we're used to. So that means there's a period when the government was supporting this influx of the local players. You're saying this stopped at some point.
Yep.
When did it stop? And how did it stop?
Around 2019. There are so many reasons, some of them political, but let's not get into that. Let me say this. Before this window was opened, during the Kibaki tenure, that is when the window was opened and many people entered into the market. You know, before we had few vehicles and you would just see few petrol stations, Corbill and Esso, you remember those days?
A
Jeep, those days. But now when the president in his regime, they opened up for importation of second-hand vehicles. Remember those days you would just have a vehicle if you can be able to afford to buy from the dealer.
From Marshalls.
So today, many people have their vehicles. And then the motorbikes. So there was an influx in the demand. And I think they had foreseen this. The person that was doing the planning that time really did it very well. So they had to open up this window so that the market will not be overwhelmed. And this market has been growing over time. We have motorbikes in the very rural areas. We will always require fuel. So I think due to the opening up, the multinationals started feeling the heat. Also, there is a lot of money that turns over in this industry. And there are a lot of interests, some of them political interest. But I would want to say this, as much as we have interests and we want to make money, there's a place that we should really not joke with. And that's the fuel industry, because fuel really runs the economy. Right now, the prices of fuel are high. International prices are dropping. Definitely not at the same rate as we are seeing on the pump. And we have many taxes and levies that we pay. I want to believe that our economy is trying to carry this on their shoulders, but it is weighing down on us. Why? Because the price of fuel, when it is as high as it is, we need a lot of dollars, because we purchase in dollars, to purchase. And therefore, the demand for foreign exchange is high. There's something that is called balance of payment. How much dollars do we have? How much dollars are we able to bring in? Are we able to import? To export as much as we are importing. So because the price of fuel is up, and every day we need more dollars to bring in the fuel, and we are not exporting as much, because when the price of energy and fuel is high, our production, we cannot be able to compete in the global market. So our balance of payment is bad. We are importing more than we can export. And that's why the value of the dollar is shooting every day. And what is happening is what is bringing in inflation, and the cost of living is hiking every day. So as much as we want to play politics and all those things, this is an industry that should be looked up with all the intelligence to make sure that we bring our fuel prices down and make sure that the market chain and the market flow moves the way it's supposed to move. For example, like now, the government is not paying these subsidies. And now, I don't know if it is working, but there is this proposal of the government to government purchase of fuel. When we open up this window, what do you think is going to happen? We had national oil. It's not working. Why? And other fuel dealers are working in the same industry. They don't go under. Now, if it is the government that is bringing in fuel, purchasing fuel for the market, what do you think is going to happen? Because basically, the system that is there is working. It has not failed. It's the government that wants to make this system fail. Because if they are not paying their money, they want them to basically fail. And you know, as a business person, as I said again, your motivation is profit. So because of that motivation, you will make sure that there are no stockouts. You make sure that you order on time. You order on the best prices so that you can be able to compete in the market. But when we leave it for the government, what does a government official have to lose? He can order anytime. You know the bureaucracies that are usually there. You hear money has gotten lost in between. And you know, in the fuel industry, even if you say, I've made a deal and I'm making 50 cents from every liter, you make super money. This money that will be made and it will go under. So as we are passing some things and trying to show when we do government to government, we are going to save money. What kind of money are we going to? It is going to bring a lot of inefficiencies in the market. And these are things that I'm saying, please, the people that really look at this sector, the parliamentarians that are sitting on the Energy Committee, sit down and look at it very well without interest for the sake of our country and for the sake of our economy.
I still haven't gotten how the independents are being run out of business.
You've not
Those
gotten
that support that we're getting, at what point did this support cease and how? How is it directly impacting? What is it that the government did to directly impact you and not the entire sector?
Now, let's come to this. During the corona season, there were many things that went wrong, yeah? And you know the international markets, what happened with the international markets. And the prices were really fluctuating. And there's a time during the corona season that we really made a lot of losses. You remember also the time the government had to put up the 8% VAT because of the demand by IMF. And that's how it was implemented in a hasty manner, which is now not favoring us. And that's why many of us have demand letters from KRA, and these demand letters are out of this world. Yeah, they are demand letters. When you get it, you get blood pressure, ulcers, or heart attack. And there are many in our sector that have that. Now, the reason why I'm saying the independents are being pushed out is that after now this season, there has never been a consistent level where you're saying the price that you're being sold at is the price and what you're selling, this margin is moving. Because from that time, we've been having on 14th, the margins are good because they have calculated. But as we continue, the margins go finishing. By the time we reach the other 14th, we are just struggling to keep our hands up. So the system is wrong because we don't have a cap on the wholesale. And it's like nobody cares about us, the retailers that are independent, that don't enjoy the whole supply chain of importing and bringing to our stations.
But if you control 50% of the market, then you are 50%, you are then, in fact, you said more than 50%, then you have muscle to actually negotiate with these wholesalers.
Maybe we need to break down what that 50% looks like, because there's also a comparative imbalance of power between you, the indigenous dealers, and the multinational corporations, right? So there could be, let's say, 5 multinational corporations or 4, and there's, I don't know, hundreds of you. So numerically, you are 50%, you are over 50%.
But you're very many.
But you're many, but also muscle-wise, if we were to put a percentage on the muscle, are you really stronger, or are they 70% and you're 30? So you're just numerically 50%, but in terms of your influence,
so that is
that's
unless this voice, this 50% speaks as one voice, because I get what you're saying, Daisy. There are 4 companies that control, let's say, 48%.
Yep, they have the financial muscle,
but they have
everything.
Muscle,
they have the support,
structural muscle. They have,
and then the rest of you, 1,000 of you, control the 52%.
Yeah,
but you are very many.
We are very many.
So what do you feel that percentage counts for, and what you can do about it?
The percentage, what it counts for to the economy? Those are...
even for this lobbying.
For you, yeah.
For lobbying, what we want is that the government sits down with us and we tell them the structure of our business. The government should be able to protect its citizens. In our market chain, we have people that are called brokers. They buy fuel from the shippers and sell to the big, small players, and they make like 20 cents per liter, and they survive like that. But when you look at the implementation, let's say for VAT, the taxman will want them to pay the taxes, the VAT. They don't want to know there's 20 cents. They say that one in the structure of fuel, there is no broker. So we want the government to sit down and look at the many jobs that we provide and look at their structures, if they are working as per our system because we are still contributing to the economy.
Sure.
Yeah.
What would happen today if independent suppliers of fuel did not exist?
Woo! You'll see queues, and when there are queues, prices will hike. It will be just hectic. And I've given you an example of what happened last year. The queues you saw is because independents were not selling. Simple. Independents were not selling. That's why you saw the queues.
So the market actually then does rely on the independents.
So seriously. The market cannot do without the independents.
And it's a factor of distribution.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the other thing that you said, so this would be one thing that would happen. There would be a distribution problem, and so we'll be queuing. But the other thing that you said is that there would be a control issue by the international...
Yeah, the multinationals.
By the multinationals. How would that look like?
You know, if you have few people that are supplying, you bring a monopolistic kind of a market, or a market that is controlled by few people. So they can just sit like four of us and we say...
Cartel.
This
so it's
fuel
about
we
the
are
prices.
going to... Yeah.
The prices will be astronomical.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can...
Because there will be no competition, and that's why we are saying let the open tender system continue and let these other suppliers be paid their money so that they can be able to supply the market the way they've been supplying. It's been working. They bring their fuel, they sell to us, and the market moves. Yep.
Personally, I believe in protectionism. And I think, and from my readings, even of the history of Western countries, they got to where they are from protectionist measures. And some of those protectionist measures happen until now. Or some of the ones that were even very extreme and stringent probably ended in the 70s, no, not back in the Industrial Revolution. So it's... a pity, I suppose, that it is an organization that, like you, that has to make a lot of noise for that to happen in this very sensitive industry that affects absolutely everything.
Yeah. I want to think also this industry has been shrouded in a lot of mystery because many people don't know how it runs. Yeah. You'll find people coming to my station and saying, this one is not the multinational. Yeah. I don't think you're selling good fuel.
Yeah, you're the ones who sell adulterated fuel.
And people don't know. They just see fuel coming from the pump and they imagine it is coming from underground somewhere.
I mean, even you giving the description on this show, it's very layered and there's so many complexities. And
it's actually an issue of trust because why do we have such kind of perception? Because actually, if you ask out of every 10 people, you give them names of this between here and the next 10 kilometers. These are the number of stations. These are the fuel stations on the road. And then put one multinational and ask them, which one are you going to fuel at? Many of them will go for that one brand.
Yeah.
Why?
It is a perception. And, in competition, there is mudslinging and smearing. So this fuel comes from the same place. If there's anyone that you'll find with adulterated fuel, it's all about them as individuals. Because in every industry, you'll never lack people that are not straight. Even in your career, there are people that don't do it right the way it's supposed to be done. Yep. So it's about the owner. And when you look at the time that April lists the people that have been selling adulterated fuel, you'll be surprised to see that you see the multinationals there. It's only that they are fewer than us. So when you look at it, you'll find many to small names that you don't know and maybe two names that you know. So it's a problem of the whole industry. And adulteration is a problem of the whole industry. So I would want to say for our buyers and our consumers, know your supplier. You know, the one that is selling to you. But the fuel that we sell is the same fuel. And EPRA makes sure that we don't sell adulterated fuel. So they will come checking. If they find that you are selling adulterated fuel, they close your station, which is good because we don't want also to destroy vehicles of our customers who are our consumers, and they are the ones that sustain us in the market. Yep.
The big brands also in their advertising use the trust element.
They know
a lot. It's total by choice, or the brand that you can trust. And it is true. We do have that bias. Personally, I will confess that I do have that bias. I'll drive there and then I look at that station and say, okay, this one I was told they put donkey urine in the pump, so let me may find a shiny petrol station. Yeah.
So the issue that I'm hearing you saying that you're raising, Irene, you want better representation in the board of EPRA.
Yeah.
Right? In saying that let EPRA understand us by us having a voice in how the EPRA is thinking at policy level.
Yeah.
You also have an issue with KRA.
Very serious issue with the KRA.
What is this issue with KRA? What do you want?
Now, KRA should understand that as administrators, the business people that they have in this country. And that's why I said we pick things from other countries and bring them here. Who are the business people? Let's talk about the fuel dealers. Who are they? Most of them are people that are there because they did not get a chance to go to college or to secondary school. And they were doing their small things. They saw there's an opportunity. They started selling fuel and people continued buying. And today maybe they are big dealers. But what is the level of their education? So as a taxman, because again, after the VAT, we pay the 30% that we pay at the end of the year. At the end of the year, you're supposed to give your profits, your net profit, and then 30% is supposed to go to the government. And there are expenses. You put your expenses together. But according to KRA, there are allowable and disallowable expenses. Now, you, as a dealer, you don't know. What you can do is employ an accountant. An accountant is coming from college. You don't have the opportunity or the luxury of having that accountant going to a big multinational where they can be trained how things are done. So they come and keep your records. But now the irony of it is that in our education system, and ask anyone that has done CPA, accountings, or finance in our system, if they are taught the taxation system in our country. Nobody knows. They don't know how to calculate these things. So you have given your accountant. They don't know what to do. Now, they bring the papers the way they are, the way you do. They show your profits. But now when you go and say, I bought stones to build, the taxman will tell you, bring the receipt. Now, I don't know from your place if the quarries, they give you receipt. I bought sand. You don't have receipts. They'll tell you, now, this one, strike it out. This is not an expense. So you see, because of that lack of education, this is causing a lot of victimization. We are also asking, because at the end of the year, what you do, you take your books to the certified auditor. The certified auditor will look at your books and say, this is the money that you owe the government. This is my money as the auditor. The rest is your money. So you chew your money. You have made your profit. If it is 10,000, you eat your profit. But according to our system, after 7 years, the window period of being assessed is 7 years. So the taxman will come within those 7 years, maybe the 5th year, and say the year 2019, your returns were not right. So they will ask you for the books. You call your auditor. Let me tell you, Latif, your auditor will tell you this. Go and talk to that officer and bribe them, because you'll never win a case against KRA. And let me tell you for real, so many cases that you see in court today are for the people that have refused to bribe. No, because they have paid wrongly. And what we are agitating for, not only for our sector, is tax education. Tax education so that you know how to pay your taxes. And also because of that education, we are going to query the taxes that the taxman is asking. Because if you want tax that is beyond the amount of money that I can make, I pay tax from profit. But if you're demanding more than I can be able to break even and pay you, that's why people evade paying tax. And the few like us that want to pay, we carry the whole burden of what is supposed to be paid. For example, how many taxes do you pay?
Who knows, man?
3, maybe.
What and what?
Pay as you earn. No, actually, just that, because I'm not a business person, but I know business people pay a lot of taxes.
And you pay VAT every day. Every day.
And consumption, of course.
VAT, excise, all those.
Now, we are doing CBC. We are teaching children how to swim. Even children from our area, there's no water there. But do we teach them how to pay taxes? Because every one of them, when they finish school, they are going to pay taxes. So can we change our system so that everybody knows?
Teach everybody how to pay tax.
When this knowledge gap is broken, it will break corruption. And it will cause more people to pay, such that the whole economy is paying, so that people are not just looking at the fuel dealers.
You have said it very well. Irene, thank you for joining us today. Thank you. We'll invite you again. It's 10 o'clock. It's time for us to leave. Irene Kimathi is the National Chairperson of the United Energy and Petroleum Association of Kenya. She's been our guest this hour. Daisy Maritime Miner has been our guest host today. Thank you as well for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Tomorrow, hopefully, will be Friday. And we'll be here at 6 a.m. Have a lovely day.
Friday.
Good morning. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Inspector General of Police Japhet Koome